the heart and soul of our sport,
where these players strive to become who they're truly meant to be.
No more break, it's time for action. Welcome to Overwatch Contenders.
Hello and welcome everybody. It's day 2 of North American Contenders, and boy does it feel good to be back here, getting our sea legs back underneath us. But these teams have been sailing for quite some time now, actually, as they've all gotten off to what is a heck of a start.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we had an explosive beginning to the season yesterday. What a game to finish on in NA last night as well. Obviously, hats off to those teams for pulling that out in the final moments. But I'm hoping we can kind of relive some of that, today. I'm hoping we get a banger, at least half of what we saw from the end of last night. If that's the case, we definitely got some good action on our hands today. First match of the night for us going to be 0-3 Splash taking on Worldwide, followed up then by Dragon Dance versus Wisp.
I'm kind of worried we expended our banger budget for like the rest of the year last night.
That one went to 11 last night. That was insane.
It wasn't even just that game either. There were like 2 other 5-mappers going on at the same time. This has been obscene, and this is coming off the back of what was largely considered to be one of, if not the most competitive season of Contenders that we've had so far in the spring series. This summer series has only been just as exciting, but Saints still remains up top.
Yeah, I mean, last season there was so much discussion about the parity, just that any team, any given Sunday kind of situation, basically any team could pull out a win. We saw some big upsets. We saw some great stories coming out from teams like 0-3 Splash, teams like Timeless, 2 teams that are in the top 5 at the moment. But of course, I mean, it is day 1, and like we do say already, yes, Saints out to an early lead. That may continue throughout this group stage, but who knows? Because I think this summer series is going to look a lot more similar to what we saw in spring, with anything could kind of happen kind of vibes, than it would any other season where we used to be very top heavy, right? Not the case anymore.
Yeah, I mean, for once, the rosters have actually stayed relatively stable between the seasons.
Have they though?
Okay. There's been enough mix-ups, but I think a lot of the top teams have looked at their rosters and said, okay, how can we kind of refine what we had last season? And that is the case for most of the top teams. Of course, the bottom are going to mix it up, this, that, and the other. But as far as the teams that were placing highly last season, a lot of them just want to build on the success they had, and that's what gets me excited for teams like 0-3 Splash.
Yeah, a lot of strong cores stayed similar, at least, if not the same, and that is good news, especially, like you say, for teams like 0-3 Splash, where, they come in last season and they really do exactly what their name says. They make a big splash, have a great performance, really put some names out into the limelight. One of those names, of course, being Lukewarm, an exceptional performance throughout Spring Series, really made a name for himself, and now they just bolster that roster ever so slightly, right? I mean, they were already a strong team, and they feel like they've gotten just a little bit stronger.
Yeah, you see 3 of those players that they're bringing on pretty recently in Boat, Infected, and Deco all joining the fray. And again, they kind of slot right into this roster, right? It's not like you're getting rid of players that were performing last season, right? Echo's still around. You still have plenty to work with. Neutral, going into a 2nd season of Contenders now, has a bit of experience under their belt, was already performing out of their mind in the last season. For me, this is a team that wants to kind of solidify their spot as a top team. They had that fantastic late stage performance in the spring series, and coming into summer, they've got to keep that momentum, because if they lose it, it could just be a flash in the pan.
Yeah, and that's of course not something that they're looking for. On the other side though, this is going to be an interesting one, because Worldwide is one of those teams that snuck into Contenders, has certainly had, I would say, a tough time, as you would kind of expect early on, but who knows, things could turn around. Tristan, Emerin, Sahil, Nolan, Red X as well. I mean, this is still going to be a very strong team. I mean, you don't make it into Contenders in the modern era without being a good team, having some really solid talent, some strong potential, and I'm curious to see how they can do against a team 0-3 Splash that certainly seems to be one of the top dogs right now, given their performance already in the round robin.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, even the top of OD is basically a bunch of Contenders teams, so getting here is no small feat, and there are a fair number of pedigree here, right? Nolan has been around for a long time in the competitive scene. Sawhill, coming off the back of a 2nd Calling All Heroes major win, has plenty of stuff to brag about as of recent, if not within the past week. And then you round that out with a couple of rookie names coming to this roster that are looking to prove themselves. I think you have a recipe for a team that could really grow into something.
And that's one of the things I really like about CAH as well, right? Is the fact that we do have a ton of talent that is actually kind of cross-pollinating right now. Talent that we wouldn't have otherwise seen, maybe even just as early as last year. Now being able to get opportunities here in Contenders as well, and just seeing their success on both stages as well. I mean, I'm just really excited to see some of these players continue to develop and continue to kind of just raise that ceiling ever so higher with each, tournament every single time we see them come out. So hoping good stuff to come for those players, but let's go ahead and get ready to dive into our first map here. We do already have it selected. Map number 1 is going to be Ilios.
That's right. This is where we're going to start testing things, because O3 Splash, if their first matches are anything to prove, it's that they've still got it. Worldwide is the ones being tested here, though, and I mean, talk about getting tossed in the deep end here, right? You're going to have to make a hell of a splash if you want to have an impact against O3 Splash, especially on a map like Ilios. They are just so lined up to kind of play this perfectly. I think the one thing that is going pretty well for Worldwide is the fact that the meta has gone pretty wide. The fact that there's been at least a patch and some change since Overwatch League, the fact that there's a bit of openness to interpretation, I think screams that a lot of teams are looking to interpret the new meta in different ways. We saw a little bit more D.Va than we were used to seeing in the previous days, and now we're getting a mixes of other things alongside that. So teams are able to play to their strengths a bit more than they may have used to be.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious how this is going to go, because obviously the patch came in today that's looming. Maybe, who knows what happens when that comes into play. But with what patch we're on right now, I'm going to make a call here that I think this looks a little bit like Pro-Am qualifiers. Remember that type of conversation back in that era? I think it's going to be a similar arc here, where the strong composition is probably going to lean into the Winston if teams can play it. But here at the Contenders level, who knows? There could be some massive switch-ups. We saw teams back in the Pro-Am qualifiers actually performing quite well with alternatives. Obviously, things eventually drifted into just being Winston dominant, but that takes time. And here in the round-robin stage, you have to make your mark here and now. There's not much time to actually, again, make your mark before you find yourself either making it into the playoffs or not making it into the playoffs. So I think it's going to be open here in the round robin. Who knows what happens once we get into the double elimination bracket? I mean, who's to say we're even on this patch? I actually don't even know, so we'll have to see how that looks. But right now, I would imagine that the strongest teams are probably going to lean towards the Winston, because that's what they've been playing with and against for a little bit longer.
Yeah, I mean, they're used to it at this point. It's been the default for a lot of shifting metas. You just go right on back to it because it's so safe, right? No matter what happens, the Winston composition is just fine enough, even if the meta hasn't been discovered yet. Exactly, yeah.
A lot of times you see this kind of stuff paired like Winston, Tracer, Sombra, and it is so difficult to play backline or tank into that. You just get hacked, you get stunned, you get booped, you get, jumped on, you get... absolutely clobbered, you get slept, you get purpled. It's so difficult to play into. Like I said, that's kind of why teams like to pick it, because it can be such a punishing composition. If you do have that coordination to pull something like that off, you can run away with matches with it. And here you see O3 Splash, again, one of those teams that we expect to do quite well in this tournament. Well, that's exactly what they're going to be playing.
Yeah, Worldwide not going for that. Sawhill not known for the Winston as well. In the recent Calling All Heroes tournament, saw very little playtime because the only thing being played in that tournament was Winston. So it's probably pretty happy to get to step up, flex the arms on a Ramatra for once. I'm actually really excited to see this. It's a composition that we rarely get, especially on Ilios, well of all things, but with a Torbjorn kind of tossed in from the side deck, it should be even more interesting. They will pull up on the mini pack here, wait for that point to unlock. Kind of all comes down to the Ramatra to balance that point presence, to not allow O3 Splash to just take it over. So far, it is doing a good job at keeping the dive composition at arm's length. The point unlocks, we'll see just how effective it is, though. Sawhill stepping in on the point, beginning to take it over in favor of the defending team. A nice anti-nade brings Emerin down to just a hair's worth of health. O3 Splash are forced back by Infected, taking, honestly, a boatload of damage.
I think these are going to be the go buttons that O3 Splash are looking for. Once you see those purples come in, that's going to be that pounce option for O3 Splash, but already they're struggling. Obviously they're being patient, but sometimes patience ends up getting someone killed.
Yeah, this time it is unfortunately an O3 Splash player, but I think Worldwide have played this very well. Even when the anti-nade comes in, they recognize that, put a bunch of damage down onto Infected, make sure that they can't properly engage onto it. It's really well coordinated.
I don't suspect that O3 Splash is going to be changing anything here, though, right? I mean, they still have their win conditions. They're solid win conditions. Obviously, they're going to have to play a little bit more patiently than they're used to. Tristan almost getting caught there, but Worldwide, they know that if O3 Splash dive into them, they have solid answers to contend with Infected here.
I mean, there's an obscene amount of survivability. Not just in the fact that they have an ultimate, but just every one of these players, like, who dies to a dive off rip? Like, it's saying something when Emerin or Redix is the most vulnerable target playing Lucio and Torbjorn. It's very hard to actually kill anything. A duplicate over top looks to put some damage down. We'll see if the Nemesis Swarm comes out. Did they get the Annihilation online? Like, almost inevitably will. No! Gets popped out of the duplicate, but not before Infected able to take down Emerin. Worldwide try to make an engagement out of a late sound barrier, but it's piecemeal at best here. O3 Splash just bolstered themselves with a rally and are able to cap the point.
O3 Splash actually pulling some late support ults there as well. I mean, Redx just, I mean, what was it, like a half-second late on being able to save Emerin, but
I'm just getting started.
Still a good start for Worldwide. And remember, they're the team having to play into a pretty scary opponent in O3 Splash, a team that's already sitting very comfortably to, I wouldn't say very comfortably, they did have some closer matches, but nonetheless, a team that we suspect should be doing well, and they have a good start here. And I think compositionally, just this makes so much sense. Now I'm curious to see how they retake, though, because obviously that patience is going to wear down the clock, and certainly not in their favor.
I can't afford to stay here forever. What they can't afford to do is fight for quite a long time. They've got a lot of ultimates to control the space on the point, starting out with a Molten Core to push back the likes of O3 Splash, following up with an Annihilation. O3 Splash now pressed up against the coastline of Ilios well, but they fight back from the corner, which they've been shoved into, and hold the point strong at 60%.
Now taking the lead here, but expending a ton of resources to get into this position. Fortunately for them, O3 Splash, that is, they are going to have a couple of good ultimates to kind of juggle and utilize here, and I think that really is going to come from Boat and Infected getting a lot of the resources, for the most part neutral, going to be giving over the Nano to Infected more than likely. Boat going to be able to buy some time as well by going into the duplicate. Already, Lukewarm with a massive pick.
Lukewarm's just at it again. Spring Series was one of the biggest highlights we've seen in a minute for Lukewarm. Absolutely skipping nothing. Nolan having to get in on the damage. It's not going to be enough, though. 3 Splash looks in clean position to get this one done. I'm going to be honest, I do think as nice as the comp is from Worldwide, and I think it can work on some of these other maps, the insignificant pressure on the Ana was really too much. Neutral was getting so much done from completely uncontested positions.
And that's one of the struggles dealing with this type of composition, too, is that if you aren't able to mirror it, it is so difficult to get a win here. O3 Splash just taking full control. Sahil trying to get something done, but it's just, I mean, this is going to be the case, I think, for anything that Worldwide tries to do here in these final moments. It's just basically buying time for what is effectively still going to be a first-round loss, and that's exactly what happens here. But yeah, I think this is going to be the story for this series, right? It's just going to be, okay, we expect to see a lot of this Winston composition. Can map picks or can some kind of adjustment to the composition or the playstyle, what have you, be enough to actually get past what seems to be the insurmountable composition, the composition that is really going to give a lot of people a tough time?
I mean, I don't even think I'm coping when I say this, though. We got the worst map out of the way quick, right? Like, it doesn't get worse than well for the composition that Worldwide wanted to offer up. That being said, it seems like they're looking to bend the knee, at least in the way of the Winston coming out. They'll maintain that Moira composition. Nolan, of course, known for playing the Moira for some time now. The difference here now being in the DPS. Let's see what we get to play alongside the Ashe and the Sombra. Another Reaper comes out. No Tracer for Worldwide. Both will remain uncontested.
Yeah, that's actually one of the staple picks for the most part with this type of composition. You often see things like Winston, you see things like Ana, and you see things like Tracer happening quite a lot. But it's just really the Winston that Worldwide are taking up. They do have the Sombra, but they have the Lucio, and let's see what they can do with some speed, with some aggression that hopefully they're going to be able to leverage here.
Early pressure lends to Worldwide holding this point. They can hold positions quite well with the damage threat of that Reaper. It's just the dives from O3 Splash are going to be a lot more lethal with the burst damage that they've got. Do exactly that. Sahil down. Overcommits kind of on their own. Tries to go for a regular dive, but again, this composition isn't particularly great at actually following up on that. Now without a tank to lead the charge, Worldwide are trying to find a trade of their own right, but I don't think it's happening anytime soon.
Yeah, this looks like it's going to be twisting back in favor of O3 Splash. They're going for the flip right now, but Worldwide just trying to extend that lead just a little bit here. They know that retaking is very difficult against O3 Splash, so need all the help they can get. That was a smart play from them. I will say, though, as we go into a pause here, Worldwide seem to know their win conditions very well, especially in the neutral. Obviously, when things break down, that's when you start to see O3 Splash get ahead, and a lot of that comes down to experience from these players playing at a high level for a very long time, some of them playing for years in the Contenders level. But Worldwide coming into this, it feels like they are very understanding of what O3 Splash, what they're doing, what they're looking to do, and how to compete against it, because both times in the neutral here, Door, we've seen Worldwide come out on top.
Yeah, honestly, like, it seemed like miscommunication from Sawhill and the rest of the team, maybe just an overextension, but outside of that one mistake, everything else, perfectly fine, right? Honestly, they tried to back up, tried to get a reset in for Sawhill, it didn't quite work. And it is important that they understand the win condition, not just for their composition, but these are two very different compositions, right? 6-man on one side, dive on the other, one of which functions almost more like a rush composition in a lot of ways. The other one wants to dive and burst a backline. My only worry again, though, is that with the 6-man composition, you're not seeing nearly as much pressure put onto neutral, and so that Ana remains in a relatively stable position in terms of backline. That is, up until his EMP goes off. Pressure goes on to the Brig. Deco lives. The Nano Boost goes on to Infected as well. Wasn't even needed to save the Brig. Infected to the backline, dealing tons of damage to the likes of Worldwide, and push that was well laid is unfortunately shut down by some really well-timed support ultimates.
Yeah, I think one of the things that Worldwide are going to have to deal with this composition, and granted, they do have a lot of the pieces, a lot of the ways to deal with it. They're all in place, but trying to make sure that you can execute on it is very difficult, which is to get to neutral and get to lukewarm. We saw that initial pressure come out from the EMP in the backline, just not able to get it, and you can see, I guess, again, that struggle as things break down. As soon as the plan doesn't really work out to a T, things start to kind of go awry a little bit here for Worldwide. Hopefully it doesn't break down to the point where they can't get in and at least make a good contest again. Because so far in these fights, they have looked pretty solid. They just have to get into them again.
I mean, they should be pretty able to walk forward and maintain neutral for a not insignificant amount of time. But again, every time you're just trying to slowly step forward and close that gap with this 6-man comp, you're getting rained on by anti-nades and ash bullets. And in the meantime, O3 Splash is going to look to dive that backline and stop that slow push from Worldwide from coming out. Decide now is the time to make that dive happen. Send Lucio careening towards the edge of the map. And Lukewarm still, I don't think has had a hair's breadth of damage dealt to him. This is free reign for an Ashe player who is in peak form.
Yeah, if you want to have one person just kind of free casting, it certainly isn't going to be Lukewarm for my money. Just like that, O3 Splash, they take a lead here. I will give credit to Worldwide. They did actually manage to get into that backline, but it's a split backline, right? Lukewarm isn't sitting on top of neutral and vice versa. So if you are able to get neutral, I mean, you're still going to be just getting absolutely rained down upon by Lukewarm. If you go for Lukewarm, he's going to get support. So it's a very difficult decision that you have to make in the moment. Who's going to have the, you know, who's going to be the clearer kill, the more impactful kill for you to go for, and difficult to make that decision.
Yeah, it's not worth showing by any means, though, from Worldwide for a map number 1. I think, honestly, looking at this match on paper, looking at the rosters, I was worried for a lot worse. This does seem well within range should they get not Helios for a map, right? Of the first maps that Worldwide could have rolled, this was almost definitely the worst of them, right? It's just a Winston team's dream, and O3 Splash is currently specializing in that. If Worldwide can force that map pick somewhere else, honestly anywhere where that Ramatra comp can be played, all of a sudden I start to see him cooking a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, Worldwide has obviously, this is not going to be their home map. Let's just be honest and clear about that. They lost a series yesterday to Wisp because it went to a Game 5, went to Ilios. They weren't able to come out on top there. And then now here today, they open the series up against another team that is likely to play Winston. And of course, it goes exactly how you would expect it to, but not without a couple of silver linings. Like we talked about, they still looked very, very good inside of those neutrals. So once you see them have this game plan set in action that they can execute on, I expect that they're going to look a lot better. And now that they have map choice to be able to kind of lean into, well, hey, things might kind of shift up a little bit. And this is going to be a second map chosen by them of Eichenwald. This is going to be, I think a good map for them to go to. Obviously, there's still opportunities here for Winston to come out, but I think this does look better than Ilios, of course.
I mean, your goal is to open the door for yourself. The Winston composition is just in a place in Overwatch 2 where it's playable virtually everywhere. Trying to counterpick it is nigh on impossible, save for, like, Circuit Royale and Havana.
I would say Circuit,
maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw Peps force it on Circuit for, like, the longest time, so I don't even know if that's... like, teams will just play it anywhere for whatever reason. Nevertheless, Eichenwald opens the doors, I think, for Worldwide to get what they want to play into the door. Do you think one Battlefield we haven't really talked about, though, is that macro play? It's been not ever over or under investments by Worldwide. It's not been bad by any means, but O3 Splash, I feel like, has been looking particularly good in their ultimate tracking and their fight planning, fully ready to respond to virtually anything. And they're dealing with what is often a tricky ultimate to deal with in terms of macro in that coalescence with ease. It seems like they've just ignored it half the time and had absolutely no problem with the fact that it comes up so quickly.
Yeah, something that I like about this Eichenwald pick, actually, with regards to that, actually, is the fact that when you look back in the history for this map specifically, this actually was a map that was traditionally considered to be more of a dive map than we saw. I believe it was Revival, if I'm not mistaken, 2 years ago, maybe now 2.5 years ago, where we saw them have that Rush Vival kind of arc going on. And Ike became actually a map that they generally kind of liked going to because there's a lot of great rotations that you can make that are, I mean, pretty genuinely well covered. And when you talk about a team that's probably more comfortable on rush-style compositions, things that are baked behind Reinhardt or Ramacha like you would expect Worldwide to be, well, this map actually is a good map for them to take because it also will give them time in those rotations to adjust some of those strategies based off of the counter rotations that you get from O3 Splash. So there's levels to this that I think actually do kind of bode at least a little bit better for Worldwide than would otherwise be obvious.
So let's assume that the rush does come out, whether it's the normal or the tempo variation. Does the Torbjorn stay? What's the over-under?
I mean,
it didn't look bad.
I don't hate the Torb and I don't hate the Reaper, and obviously that comes down to them really trying to make sure that they can do as much as they can to kind of temper that aggression coming from the Winston-based team. It's really good against Tracer, generally speaking, but it's also very strong against the Winston. So anytime Infected wants to play aggressively, he is going to be met with that aggression in turn in his own face. So I do think that there's a lot of validity to it. However, here on Eichenwald, probably a little bit less so. I would expect the Reaper more than likely, but maybe not so much the Torb outside of certain stages of the map where you can get away with it.
Yeah, I gotta hand it as well. You mentioned Infected getting a lot of that pressure put on him by the shotguns, but
yeah,
Infected really took it like a champ in the last game. Like, I can't think of but once where Infected was getting pushed out in a position where he shouldn't have been or overextending into those shotguns, instantly recognized the composition despite it not being a popular one, and handled the playstyle swap with great professionalism. It's probably the best way that I could describe it.
All right, getting ready to dive in here. Obviously, map number 2. This is still round robin stage, obviously, so a lot of room for teams to continue to develop at the moment. But of course, let us know how you think of these teams so far. Obviously, this is only day 2, but hashtag OWPTP2023. Join the conversation on Twitter right now using that hashtag. Let us know what's on your mind with these two squads, because we would definitely like to know.
Just let us know who you're rooting for. Who's popping off?
Yeah.
I'll take anything.
As we talked about, I mean, seems to be no surprises here for Worldwide, right? I mean, we see that Rush comp, we see the Reaper, we don't see the Torb. I mean, it seems like we're all in the same line of thinking right now.
Yeah. I mean, I think this works perfectly fine. The Mei is a bit more interesting into the dive competition, especially to not bring any semblance of a hit scan when you're talking about a map that has a history of at least playing some flyers, if not a not insignificant amount of them. There's not going to be really anything to deal with Boat, at least not in the short term. Punishes them for that misgiving now and pick onto Redux. You get out of here. You can't disengage anymore because you're missing the Lucio. You can't fight because you can't reach anybody. Worldwide have no recourse.
On top of that, they can't deal with burst damage either. I mean, Nolan can only do so much. Red X with Lucio can only do so much. So if O3 Splash land a tremendous amount of damage all in one kind of short series of frames, it's difficult to deal with. But at least Worldwide are able to do the same themselves, it seems.
They do have quite a bit of sustain to live on the point for a very long time, right? Same thing as the mini health pack over on Ilios. This time, though, they have far less ceiling to hide under. Instead, they got to take a lot of this damage, try and dish it back out with the Coalescence re-engage from Nolan. This seems to have been enough, Furix. It was scrappy, but I think that's what Worldwide were actually looking for.
Yeah, I mean, Worldwide love this type of playstyle where O3 Splash, we could just keep them at bay just long enough. Let's get our Coalescence online, then let's turn that fight back around, because it's going to be very difficult for O3 Splash to keep Deco or Boat, ideally both, still breathing once we get that ultimate out. And once we do get that ultimate out, if we can win that fight, then guess what? We're now kind of into that really solid tempo of being able to generate those ults and start going back and forth on things. Look, we're 20% away from being able to get the Annihilation online. That's a big one.
20% might be too far. Redex is racing up to a sound barrier. Oh, it's so close, but no, Sawhill goes down. It's questioning whether or not the re-engage is worth it to try and spend that sound barrier. Redex!
He's juggled!
I mean, it lands! What are we gonna do with this? I mean, we speed out, but literally nobody's home. It's gonna have to be a late Death Blossom, maybe Tristan trying to use the Chaos as cover to get back into this fight. Managed to take down Infected pretty low. The rest of the team is up right and strong.
They'll just have to deal with some of these really tough components from Worldwide, and that Coalescence, that Annihilation just makes it take even longer.
Unfortunately, I think the layering of the Annihilation and the Coalescence might have actually been what did them in. If they got to pop those in turn with one another, it might have been enough sustain to get them through, but alas, Worldwide, in the chaos, in the scrap, let go of a point A. Granted, they did manage to take a not insignificant amount of time off that clock.
Yeah, not at all. I mean, now they can set up on the high ground as well, and this is where they can kind of take their time just a little bit, and this is where they get to start isolating members of O3 Splash out with, if Infected goes up and doesn't have that extra support, they can pull Infected forward, and now he's not in sight line of neutral anymore. They can dive into the back line. There's a lot of options here for Worldwide, as long as they don't lose bodies first, and that's exactly what they've done.
You know what? They're happy to make that trade, though. Emerin for Infected every day of the week. It's an all-in, though, from Worldwide, understanding that their competition doesn't have many ways to get out of the fight, and unfortunately, that all-in come up, they've bust.
So things progress further forward for O3 Splash, but I think more importantly than that, castle control just becomes a little bit more contested now with this positioning. You're not just giving it for free, and O3 Splash are going to look to at least try to defend to a degree here. You imagine that Worldwide are going to be able to push up, they are going to be able to make their stand surely as a 5-man here, but still going to be a little bit harder.
In theory, Worldwide have the better composition for just attacking this high ground to begin with, right? As long as they're up there. Not to spend too much to actually take it. Walking forward with 5 people. I mean, the Cole just counters the duplicate that came out earlier, right? That's the attempt, at least. Wasn't too successful in doing so with O3 Splash. Remain high and mighty. High ground belongs to them, and I mean, even after having 3 members leave it, the support's just chilled up there, staring down the barrel of every last member of Worldwide. Not an ounce of fear in their eyes.
Yeah, I think O3 Splash are feeling very confident right now, especially with their ability to disengage a lot of these threats. Worldwide, however, are going to have a lot more threats this time around. Last time we saw the Coalescence, this time they've got pretty much everything else.
But how do you get to neutral? Again, the question still poses itself fight after fight after fight. Yeah, you can come in here, you can stagger as long as you want, you can use all the aerial denial that you want. Blizzard comes out. Great, maybe you can freeze the Winston. No, it's just an easy jump out for Infected, again, who should be easily picked up by a neutral who is entirely uncontested on this high ground. In the meantime, Emerin has again managed to snipe Boat out of the sky, giving Worldwide a singular way into this fight. An Endo Boost re-engage from O3 Splash, though, makes things a little dire health bar-wise for the team in white, who are on the back foot and on their backs as well. Ramatra sleeping doesn't bode particularly well this defense on B.
Yeah, only a matter of time here. Sawhill does fall, and there is a late staggered death as well for Emerin. But O3 Splash continuing this push along, about 2.5 minutes on the clock here. Worldwide really kind of running out of options. However, this is still going to be a decent section of the map for them. You would at least expect, but utilization of that high ground could be paramount for O3 Splash. If they can get infected and lukewarm installed up there, they can actually pose a major threat, and that's exactly what they've done.
And they've got the players posted up. Worldwide looks to engage, nevertheless, starting with the Coalescence, it doesn't get too much done. They gain the space, O3 Splash calmly disengages. Throws out a Primal Rage to counter of their own, and now it's O3 Splash's turn. The counter punch, popping everything that they've got. Pulse Bomb comes out, Duplicate comes out. It's more than enough to get the job done. Just one more fight now to get themselves across that finish line, and Worldwide have at least a couple of tools to try and stop them.
Yeah, I mean, credit to Emeren. It feels like every fight that Worldwide loses, they still at least get something out of it through Emeren, but even now, we still see that high ground control in play from O3 Splash. You see some of these ultimates able to just buy them a little bit of extra time. As O3 Splash waiting on their last member, they're just biding time. They're just being patient. This is a smart play from them. If they can get infected out, that is.
No chance. Instantly, the Nano Boost comes through, popping that health bar back up. Even the freeze doesn't connect. The Blizzard that was meant to separate the Monkey away from the rest of the team is completely unsuccessful. And as Tristan goes down miles away from a sound barrier that was meant to save their lives, it's looking extremely dire for Worldwide. They can't even get the Annihilation off before Sawhill goes down. O3 Splash have just got to ride this one out, bring it across the finish line by the fact that they have a tank and Worldwide does not. But Worldwide are not going down without a fight. A Death Blossom, a Coalescence, the kitchen sink being poured in by the defending team as a last-ditch effort to keep this point alive, and it's been proven successful. 45 seconds now on the clock in a map that looked so certain for O3 Splash.
You have to get a little bit more if you can in that situation. O3 Splash down to 30 seconds. If you can find a late stagger, you put O3's back against the wall where they have to dive forward into spam pressure to be able to just contest. Now with just a little bit more time on the clock than they otherwise would have had, giving them opportunity, and that's not something I would want to give to O3 Splash, especially with Lukewarm so near to that overclock.
Gloves are off, the Lukewarm Sojourn has come out. Is it enough to get them through, though? Tristan down, it looks unlikely. 7 seconds now. Lukewarm, I mean, it's fighting through. Is there a touch here?
Pushing. They are pushing.
Oh, they're pushing. Yeah, wait.
Cap it.
Oh, my. Who's actually touching? Wait, we've got 3 members of Worldwide back on the cart. Boat's going to have to go down for that touch, but there's still plenty more behind them. As long as Neutral can stay alive, doesn't even have to get the pick here. Just needs to live long enough to keep infected upright. A nade comes out, but the overtime wick burns down. The pressure, the distance was just too much to cross for O3 Splash. Strong push nevertheless, though.
I do like that Worldwide noticed what was happening there in those moments. They needed to play aggressively. They needed to push into O3 Splash because O3 Splash has to send at least one body, if not everybody, to the point. So if you play aggressive there, you force O3 Splash to have to extend beyond you, which is almost always a losing bet for the team doing that. So really smart play from Worldwide. However, what I will say is that something needs to be done about this Ana, because right now, there's something like 4k damage dealt by this Ana, and I bet half of it, if not maybe more, is just purely based off of biotic grenades that are landing into Worldwide right now. They are purple every single fight, if not multiple times a fight, and that is truly becoming a little bit of a distressor here for Worldwide, especially a team that kind of relies on Moira and Lucio.
I mean, with the space and time that Neutral's had on some of these high grounds, Neutral was able to, like, bring out the protractor, measure the exact angle and velocity of every anti-nade to make sure it lands on the pixel that they're looking for. Like, it's not just the anti-nades that are problems.
0 deaths, man. It speaks for itself.
Yeah, it's getting ridiculous. On the attacking side, I worry it could be worse as well, right? With all the high ground that the Ana gets to work with by nature of being on the defensive side here. Could see problems. Worldwide still are not changing the composition to try to adapt to it.
I mean, you look across the board at the stat lines, and I mean, it's very telling. I mean, Lukewarm, about 2.5k damage taken. Neutral, under 2k damage taken. Those are, I mean, insanely, microscopically small numbers for this late into a match. But Worldwide still managed to get that stop. Now let's see if they can do something on the attack, and there's Emeren already.
Emeren's always good for one. Still, though, it's traded back. Worthwhile one for Worldwide as now they start to take a lot of that sustained pressure that they're able to have and put it towards the point. Nolan making a measured and calculated decision to damage instead of heal the Reaper there. But the hours, the endless hours on Moira will get you, though. Infected is back for a recontest. There's not much to work with. Neutral has not been touched on this high ground. I think that's the first 20 damage I've seen Neutral take this entire time. Backs away into the room. A 5-man full recontest for O3 Splash, and Worldwide just have to give it up.
3 Splash. So somehow fend off Worldwide. That looked like it was just going to be an early take. I mean, with the way that they had set the pace early on, like early pick, seems like Emran definitely a key fixture. As soon as they lose the Mei, it becomes a little bit harder to get control, and now they're pushing in, this time with the Cole.
I mean, the Coalescence is on the back foot, though. Try to use it aggressively, force out a Duke. Keeps themselves alive. Sawhill's health bar brought up just before the end of the Coalescence, but the picks aren't there. Sawhill and Redex finally go down in the meantime, but Boat is raining hell from above. The focusing beam finishes off Emran. The fight continues. Neutral still, I mean, just as much of a problem as ever on this Ana right now.
I mean, at least they got to kill Neutral that fight. They did manage to find Neutral, basically isolated Neutral out completely. Didn't receive an ounce of healing from Deco because of the way that they were able to maneuver themselves in and just kind of bisect O3 Splash's backline. But now they have to find a way to do that and still kill the rest of O3 Splash, and Infected is going to make that a lot harder. Yeah,
bisecting this team when there's a Primal Rage, pushing your team around constantly is a lot more difficult than it once was. With all that space, Lukewarm's easily going to pick up one more on the signature Sojourn. Down to 1 minute and 40 seconds now for Worldwide. They've banked up ultimates here. It's kind of now or never.
Yeah, it pretty much has to be at this stage. 90 seconds on the clock. That Coalescence, that's the furthest away from, you know, going up to 100%. Well, guess what? That's one of the fastest ultimates to generate in the entire game. So I imagine Nolan's going to be able to get pretty close here, as long as Worldwide can get in there and not lose a body in transition.
Oh, playing on a knife's edge for a bit. Knows they have duplicate to save themselves should they need. Neutral deals with the pressure beautifully, and a 3-man anti-nade. Dear God, they are no match for this Ana right now. Lukewarm flies in from the side lane, manages to pick off another O3 Splash, though. They may have been pushed just too far. There may have been one too many ultimates, despite the best heroics that Neutral could offer up their Worldwide Will Cape.
That just utilized everything that they had in their pockets. They are destitute at the moment. But look, O3 Splash in a similar situation. The good news for O3 Splash, though, they get out, they get onto the castle, they can get control of the high ground, and on top of that, when they drop, they actually are going to be able to boost Infected up with that nano boost, and that's going to be very difficult now for Worldwide to deal with, unless they can get somebody up on that high ground and contest that space. And it's got to be Tristan. In fact, they're going to send the whole team.
Yeah,
the whole team.
No, you have to send the whole team. That one person's just going to get countered over by O3 Splash, right? The whole team has to go. They dodge the anti-nade, but the damage, oh my God, the damage is just too much. Even in the face of a Death Blossom, O3 Splash, Sticky Bombs, Echo Primary Fires, Lukewarm Railguns, anti-nades from Neutral, all going down one lane. How do you walk into that? It's like the beaches of Normandy.
Yeah, it's definitely difficult to weather that storm 100%. Worldwide, I mean, you still have to find a way to get up to this high ground. This is going to become a problem here, especially as they're doing it. They're going to be, you know, naded constantly. They're going to be purpled at the worst possible times. And O3 Splash are also just laying in that damage. They're building ultimates just by pressuring.
Coalescence here is, again, just to stabilize. Used defensively, which is most of the time not how you want to be using a Coalescence. You want to be using it to push your advantage to engage this fight. Now they're lacking a critical tool that could have gotten them through this. O3 Splash know that. Re-engage with the Ramatra, that's likely going to turn into an annihilation here. Now an uncontested overclock from the high ground. This is a dream fight for O3 Splash. Sawhill just walking towards the cart aimlessly, looking to get something done. A minute 30 on the clock, though, as they fall.
Not a good timer to be at right now if you're Worldwide, knowing full well that you're probably going to require 4 ults just to overpower O3 Splash at this point. Nothing else is really going to work. You can't just hope for a pick. It doesn't seem like that's going to be consistent enough prospect. And on top of that, with the timing now, even if you win this next fight here, Dor, there's still opportunity for O3 Splash to make it back and force another.
Managed to at least get the rotate to the high ground without losing too much. Sticky Bombs come through. O3 Splash holding on to a lot of critical ultimates, though. The Sound Barrier can stop the high ground push. The Nano Boost can put a lot of pressure onto the backline. Oh, no! Emran! No, they needed you! You're the first pick machine! What are they going to do now? I suspect not get a first pick. Oh, maybe. Does go down to Annihilation. Worldwide are choosing to commit in this moment, but it's so risky. We saw he'll drop low. The Annihilation gets next to nothing done. And O3 Splash still holding on to the biggest defensive ultimate available to them in the sound barrier.
Just like I talked about too. I mean, this is their opportunity to go for another fight. Worldwide, though, really benefiting. Here comes everything from Worldwide.
Big Cole sound barrier response. Worldwide, actually, that's not everything from Worldwide. It's just the Coalescence, and they got the sound barrier for it. Unfortunately, Lukewarm is still just lukewarm. How do you beat this guy? Neutral's uncontested in the back line. They send Tristan off on a side quest to try and kill the Ana. Does get the Ana, but at the cost of their own life, Deco sends them to a watery grave. Now O3 Splash regrouping on the cart, surrounding a blizzard that lays prey upon Emerin. How do they actually get a recontest in here? The Doomfist swap buys a little bit of time. But it's going to have to be perfect coordination on the damage if they want to actually find their way through this, because there is not an ultimate in sight for Worldwide.
Just in case.
O3 Splash are going to be down the playmaker, the all-star. They're going to go for the contest boat. Not long for this World, but it's still going to be an opportunity here for O3 Splash to see if they can pull something away from Worldwide. Maybe buy some time for Lukewarm.
I love the zoning, though, that they're putting onto neutral, right? Making sure that there's no real...
Of that. Said Lukewarm is Lukewarm. I feel like we need to make it official that he has to rename to Piping Hot or something. Something needs to be done. Lukewarm is just not selling exactly what he's been up to in Summer Series and in Spring Series so far. Definitely cause for a rename.
I mean, it's interesting, too, because he's getting it done in such a different manner. Right, during Spring Series, it was all about those flanks while the Ramatra, the Winster, was pushing along one angle, sending a support with him to try and go for some sick overclock backline play. The recognition from O3 Splash that there's no need for all that sauce. That they can just throw Lukewarm on the opposite side of the map from neutral, where they can't possibly get both of them, and you're going to make the most unsolvable problem in the history of what Worldwide has faced up until yet. It's going to be a rough one no matter what. And so, yeah, Lukewarm looks good, but the fact that they're able to do it in a way different, in a strategy different to what they were doing before is incredible.
And on top of that, I mean, obviously already you had Echo, but now you bring in Boat, the GOAT, the Slayer of San Francisco. I mean, just absolute dominance on display from O3 Splash. So like we talked about when we first got into this series, is that O3 Splash was an already solid team, great core. A lot of those pieces still stuck around, but they've seemingly just developed it a little bit further, and I mean, the whole picture just feels a lot more refined this time around.
Yeah, and credit to Worldwide. I felt like that did look like a good map for him. It looked a lot better than Helios. At the very least, they started to make progress. The macro play was good. The ultimate usage was there. They almost get that second point, but in the end, it falls up just short. They've got a third map to try and cling on to this series, though. Coming up right after the break.
You like solving problems. Problems like how to stop that Tracer from deleting your backline. I know just what you're thinking. Go bring a turret. But y'all can't solve all your problems by simply bringing an extra friend to the battlefield. For that, you need the Contenders Torbjorn skin. Solve your problems by connecting your Battle.net account to Twitch. After that, watching Overwatch Contenders Summer Series will contribute to your drops progress, letting you claim your Overwatch Contenders Torbjorn skin. Even your turret gets an upgrade. Warning, the Overwatch Contenders Torbjorn skin does not come with extra or upgraded turrets. Build instructions will not be provided. By picking Torbjorn, you waive a claim towards any destroyed turrets. No refunds, no exchanges, and no take-backsies.
And we're back. Curix, this time I've brought my thinking cat. This is Minty. And Minty says they need to go back to playing Torbjorn. Isn't that right?
I don't know about all that one. I mean, Minty definitely seems smarter than you, but it's not a very high bar, apparently, because even though it's surpassing your knowledge, I think the fact that it's saying Torb, maybe we'd just go ahead and get it away from the mic for a little bit and let it rethink that stuff. We love Minty.
Oh, cover your ears, Minty. Don't listen to the mean man in the screen.
I apologize. I'm so sorry, Minty. You deserve better than to be around him. The ideas are coming from you, Dor. That's the issue.
No. The cat speaking. Fine. Nevertheless. Minty's got some great ideas, but so far it seems like O3 Splash are coming up with all the genius ones, as Neutral only took 3.7k damage over the course of that last map. We were talking about how it was only 2k in the first half. It was even less in the second, which is absurd when you look at the damage taken from Nolan, which is 12,000.
Yeah, I mean, both Neutral and Lukewarm were about in that same ballpark. A little bit under 4k for Neutral, a little bit over 4k for Lukewarm, but that's less than half of the amount for anybody else in the lobby. Literally anyone else in the lobby, they were less than half then. And in a lot of cases, when you combined them, they were actually less than half for a lot of the lobby as well. So that's something that may need to be contended with, especially when you look at, you know, everything else in a greater picture. 35k healing for Nolan, but hey, when it counts, it counts. And when those biotics come in, that 35k healing certainly isn't doing a whole lot for you, because it's really not going to be healing anyone at all anymore. But of course, we got map 3 ready to go. Let's not stall any longer than we have to. Watch Point Gibraltar going to be map number 3. This is last opportunity here for Worldwide to make their mark against O3 Splash, and this is another map where, you know, when we see that Winston comp, when we talk about that Winston comp, this is a map where that comp can work pretty well for O3.
I think I need a little bit of explaining here what the thinking is, right? I guess they're just opting for the straight Winston mirror, but they're gonna have to go the traditional dive, because 6-man here, not nearly as effective as it would be on other maps. And they had the opportunity to go for things more like a Sigma composition. Nevertheless, they opt into the Winston map. They also make a couple of changes with that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we do see Amadou coming in, Floomfy coming in as well. So I would say, I think the biggest question on my mind is, what is Nolan doing actually here? Are we really going to be seeing the Lifeweaver coming out? Or is it going to be more of this Moira? We obviously know Nolan can pull things out like the Lifeweaver. That is an opportunity. That is something that is available to them. That would be interesting at the very least.
It would be interesting. Would it
you
be
said
particularly
Torb, so
effective?
if we're just throwing stuff out at the wall.
Look, Torb on defense here is not unheard of. Lifeweaver in competitive play, I would argue, is a rarer beast. We'll see, though. We said the swaps come in. I need to bet. Whereas glow in the...
Yo, he does!
Ouch!
He does! I've seen them. He does. You aren't wrong. A whole galaxy up there.
Is that a compliment? I can't tell. Am I just being called out?
Yeah, you're being called out.
That hurts. What else should I decorate my room with?
Potentially twice here as well, because I know Worldwide have the Ana right now, but I'm putting it out there. Lifeweaver is available. You're allowed to play it. Nolan.
You're just like whispering sweet nothings into Nolan's ear. Just play the Lifeweaver.
I mean, let's be honest. Ana is the better pick. I mean, 999 times out of 1,000. It might be a better pick 1,000 times out of 1,000 right now. But looks like we are going to be seeing them actually transition over to that high ground to get Nolan and a couple of members of the backline up into position here. But it's all about high ground control, and we know O3 Splash very, very comfortable on this composition.
Yeah, Worldwide, it's a full match for them, effectively, right? The Hanzo versus Ashes, effectively filling similar roles. It's going to be very, very difficult to play against O3 Splash on a composition that they have spent months on at this point, just perfecting and dialing into the utmost level of performance. Still, yeah, Worldwide are slowly pushing that card under to where it's meant to be before they take a proper first engagement. That first engagement still not going that well for them. Sawhill dropped low with no real sign of being picked up.
early advantage, I would say, obviously, 0-3 Splash, but, you know, with this aggression that they, you know, kind of send towards the latter ends of fights, you can see Worldwide just opt to say, okay, when they push into us in those moments, let's just really turn that heat up on it, and let's see if we can find a pick onto someone like Infected. But as ultimates come online, this is where things get even more dangerous for a team like Worldwide, because 0-3 Splash start to juggle things like their Winston ult, things like neutrals, and it just becomes all that much harder.
Oh no!
Especially now. Was that a knockback there? Twice and a sleep.
Oh my god, yeah, no, pack it up. Just
that's the map. You got 2.5 minutes, but that's the map.
Yeah, well, that's the mental war, having been one. If it wasn't earlier, you get forced back, a nano to save the Winston's life, the re-engage just completely denied. Jump up here comes late, Tristan soon to go as well. Nolan can see his fate before him. Not anywhere but back to spawn. Infected, completely uncontested on this Winston. Basically goes back, picks up 550 health of resources, and hops right back in.
Nolan dying late there to counterpart neutral on the other side. Now we're under half of that, I mean, initially allotted time bank of 4 minutes. Now we're under 2 minutes. Quite significantly at this stage, I might add. As Worldwide are just hoping that this next push actually finds them some value, because if it doesn't, things are not looking good for this attack.
Finally got ultimates, but again, this is the one real chance. It's not even an ultimate that does it. The stray arrow from Tristan, catching the likes of Boat, forcing them back. Another one for the Hanzo player. I'm gonna be able to clean up on one more kill while the cart continues to make its march forward. Sawhill continuing to rein in pick after pick after pick, stagger after stagger, and that's how Worldwide need to be thinking. They want to stop this point, but 0-3 Splash seem to have stemmed the bleeding for now.
See Worldwide pushing in. They really don't have too much available at all, but the big sleep on the Boat, that's going to mount into a pick. As long as
Not over yet,
Infected
though.
now.
Infected has the Primal Rage, and once that Primal Rage is over, it's immediately into Nano City population worldwide. That whole city worldwide thing doesn't really work out when I think about it now, but nevertheless, 0-3 Splash are back in full force. Yes, Boat was dealt with, but they've got ultimates. The Rally used to save Neutral. The Nano Boost used to save Infected. Now being pushed back still by the pressure that Worldwide's comp offers up. All that damage from the Hanzo. But once that Hanzo's gone, there's not really much left to keep 0-3 in a corner. They've pushed out, regained all the space that they wanted, and reduced that clock down to a meager 10 seconds. They're burning off quicker than Worldwide would ever wish them to. They wait. Regroup is 5. The Hanzo comes back in, re-enters the fray. No ultimates available for either side. Amadou could send up a Hail Mary with this Pulse Bomb, though. Blinks once, twice towards the back line, throws it out, but it doesn't find anybody. Now you're really praying for an arrow from Tristan to get the job done. Body shots connecting aplenty, but the follow-up's just not there. Amadou finally takes down Infected. A chip in the armor has been made. Worldwide storm forward off the back of that pick, and they look to gain themselves a point A.
Oh, just like that, too. They claimed that kill onto neutral, and that could have been a turning point for 0-3 Splash if we saw them actually going ahead and getting that nano boost out. They may have been able to outlast, but not the case here this time around. Worldwide, they knew that if they dropped any bodies there, it was going to take a marathon to get back to that fight. So it was all about staying power, it's all about having that test of patience, and we've seen that throughout this series a lot. On display again, and here we go, just diving right in this time around.
Oh my, okay. You know what? That'll get the job done. 2 for a dragon. Very cheap fights these days.
Yeah, the dichotomy of those two fights, right? Just pure patience and then pure aggression. Just completely opposite on the fight plan, but still both obviously equally as successful. And look at this. Now we see some momentum generating here for Worldwide.
If they can maintain it. Carried all the way through the point. 0-3 Splash want to re-engage. They'll throw the Bobbin to do so. The TF tool still available. The only thing here for Worldwide is really a rally that's going to see them through a moment of the fight. But we saw Hill down. And Ultimate still up for 0-3 Splash. There's no way back into this.
Yeah, not at all. So close here to the cap. Infected. Just trying to hang around just a little bit. And they managed to do exactly that. So Worldwide, this is their last shot here yet again. But it's similar situation, right? We're seeing basically what is almost a neutral fight here. Obviously, Deco has an ultimate online, but this is where Worldwide actually, I think they do most of their damage when they don't have to contend with O3 Splash having those ults, and they can just kind of try to separate O3 Splash out and make a play.
I mean, more so than that, honestly, Worldwide just seem to do the best when their backs are against the wall. Another one delivered onto Boat! Feels like when they don't have tools, when they don't have time, something just comes alive within them, and they create the most winning scenarios out of the most unwinnable looking setups. One pick isn't everything, though. They need a lot more than that to get the job done. Just tossing in arrows. It's just half a health bar from Deco. Let's sleep onto Amadou, make things very, very dicey. We'll back away and wait for the Tracer to come back up.
Oh, Nolan under pressure here. Tristan, though, with the Dragon Strike available. That's another big pick for Boat. Worldwide. It's a dangerous position for them to be playing into as well.
I love the aggressive play here as well by O3 Splash. Send in the nano boost. They're in a small room. No better is there a place than there to use it. Taking a forward fight, being proactive about that Hanzo pick and turning it into a B hold. Again, props to Worldwide for finding some clutch plays. Getting through A was... I mean, it took everything in the tank, but they got it done. And again, it feels like these final fights are just something else. Even if they win them or don't, they are fighting tooth and nail for the ends of these maps.
I mean, just the mental fortitude on display from Sawhill alone, when they just got absolutely juggled on that initial approach on Winston with like a minute left, to be able to transition from that, just the anguish that you would feel mentally, to capping out point A and getting some real solid distance into point B, almost capturing there as well. There's a lot to be said about that, I would have to say. I don't think that I would have a keyboard or a mouse after that one, personally.
You know, for me, it's usually the monitor that goes first.
Yes, it's right in front of you, so why not, right? See, my case is just the mouse out the window. Gone.
keep the window popped open just in case.
Yeah, just in case. I don't want to hurt the window. That's expensive.
Yeah. But you make that mistake once and you don't make it again.
Exactly. Or twice in my case. But nonetheless, we've got the transition here. It's going to be O3 Splash going for their attack. Obviously on defense, it seemed like they had a really solid foundation of, you know, where to play from, what kind of spots are very, very high value. I would expect that they're going to be trying to transition to those same kind of holds as we go on to their attack, just getting up onto the high ground. These are all very obvious things for them to do on their attack with the dive composition.
With one shot from Lukewarm that really could end this whole defense. Tristan fortunate to dodge a couple of stray bullets from the Widowmaker. Heart pushes nevertheless, though, and Lukewarm will collect from that initial shot. Be it far later. Tristan still goes down. O3 Splash pressure mounting on the cart. And Amadou is, I mean, doing quite an admirable job of stopping the progress from coming through here, but it will almost inevitably do so, just due to the lack of a hit scan.
A lot of pressure already onto both of these tanks. Purple's obviously invested into using them aggressively, trying to take out Sawhill first, then onto Infected. A lot of trading going back and forth.
How is Infected just 1v3 right now? Infected has been in that room, face tanking 3 players, and comes out with Nolan? Like, I get on a Brig Winston, not the most damage to walk into, but you are only a Winston.
A little bit of help from the outside, just kind of peeking that back end. Hey, look, if you peek that back end out just enough, a couple of tushy hairs might catch a couple of heals from the end. I'm just gonna say.
I don't think that is a screenshot that like looks correct ever, though. Like, the Infected keeping 3 people in timeout effectively for God knows what was that, like 20, 30 seconds straight. And in the meantime, I think Neutral probably built up like 200% worth of nano charge.
I mean, even if you look beyond that as well, I mean, any damage that gets landed onto Amadou or Tristan, if they can't make it to a health pack, is effectively permanent, right? It's not going to get regenerated because who's going to heal them? It's certainly not going to be either the 2 supports that can't get past Infected, who's got them caught up into a locker and just shoved them in and closed the door. So
give them swirlies 3 at a time.
Literal bully here, Infected, but O3 Splash, I mean, obviously a major benefit there is going to be coming back in from the pause, but not too much action missed here. O3 Splash setting up to see if they can take point A. And look, they do have a lot of options after that last neutral fight.
Plenty of ultimate charges up, though, for either side. A nano boost available for both. Neutral holding on to it, though, saving it for later. Holy! Two-piece chicken dinner delivered by boat on a silver platter at that. Should be a done deal for Worldwide. They've got no real recourse, no way back in. A rally late tries to give some sustain to the fight, but should be all over. Primal Rage goes. This is taking quite a while to take down Sawhill, but as long as Sawhill does fall, which doesn't, but two other players will do the job, O3 Splash will get that egg.
That's better.
Surging forward. See that extra time get thrown up there as well. 4:20 was the timer there for O3 Splash on the transition to second stage of the map, where now Worldwide have to find some way to cut all of that down. And off of a section where a lot of momentum here already built up, of course, by O3 Splash, and we're seeing them trying already to get control of ship, and they kind of already have it. And this is a tough position to be in for Worldwide.
Every one of those shots from Lukewarm just looks more and more dangerous as well. Cart push comes through. If O3 Splash play this right, they can get it down to a one-fight point. Already looking good for an engagement. The rally dissuades any sort of dive that Sawhill and Amadou wanted to put onto that back line. Now with no tank, how do Worldwide actually stop this cart? They can't afford to wait for that respawn to come all the way in because that green box is so close. But if they drop, it's surely a death sentence, right? Neutral goes for the play as well. It's a fat anti-nade that spells the death of Nolan. Decent follow-up by Worldwide, though, means that Amadou will take down Infected. Tank is all they'll get, though, for their troubles. O3 Splash to pick up a clean 3-0 win in their first game of the day.
Pretty big performance as well from Tristan. I mean, of the, 16 final blows that Worldwide were able to achieve, 8 were there for Tristan. Unfortunately, when you're talking about going against a team, and here we see Tristan, at least some of that, I imagine this is the Dragon Strike, but when you're talking about going against a team like O3 Splash, I mean, even having some of these really solid individual performances like we saw from Worldwide, and even some of their macro looked great. You saw some of the neutral game looking pretty solid, especially early on. It's just so hard to transition, you know, some of those good pieces into a greater picture that O3 Splash clearly has. They had in Spring Series, they still have here in Summer Series. And that's why we see a team like O3 Splash sitting very solid in the standings, able to take these 3-0s against teams like Worldwide. This is a big win for O3 Splash, but nonetheless, I still like what I saw from Worldwide. I would say I'm a little bit surprised by what we saw from them, actually.
I mean, I'll touch on Worldwide one more time before we let them go start talking about the victors here, but like a solid first broadcast performance against a team that it realistically is 3-0ing most people that they would be going up against. And on top of that, think about Worldwide in like a different meta. Like, this Winston one, playing against all these teams that have been playing it for so long, it's always going to be a hard time, but it seems like they have a lot more underneath their belt that they haven't quite shown us yet.
Yeah, I'm curious to see, you know, what if we saw them a little bit, you know, back in Spring Series, in that kind of meta, right? Where you see a lot more Ramattra being played. That seems to be kind of their bread and butter, at least. Maybe things develop into that by the time we get into double elimination. Who knows? I mean, who's to say at this stage? But either way, they're not the team getting the win today. Unfortunately for them, they actually take yet another loss. We'll have to see if they can turn things back around, I believe, next week, or I guess later today. They still have another match. But outside of that, O3 Splash, yet another win for them. Obviously, very much two teams in the night going separate directions at this stage. O3 Splash has been pretty dominant so far.
Yeah, I think O3 Splash is just happy to see a 3-0. I mean, yesterday they played two map 5s yesterday, and they looked exhausting series. Both of them. So I think they're happy to pick up a 3-0. We'll figure out exactly what they are thinking, though, just after this break.
Oh, hello. Fancy meeting you here. It's so nice to see ya. Are you ready to survive the wastelands? Then you'll need to bring your shotgun, your axe, and of course, your knife for your sharp wit, if you get my drift. Hey, whoa, whoa, whoa. Hold on there. Don't forget to pick up your Overwatch Contenders Junker Queen skin. Yeah, gearing up is as easy as connecting your Battle.net account to Twitch. And after that, watching the Overwatch Contenders Summer Series will contribute to your drop progression, letting you claim your own wasteland-ready Overwatch Contenders Junker Queen skin. Oh, that's right. It's time to rampage. Now, get out there and slay with the Overwatch Contenders Junker Queen skin. Okay, take care now. See you in chat.
Welcome back, everybody. An interview was promised, and we've got Deco in the booth to talk to. First of all, Deco, congratulations on a 3-0. I'm sure you're quite relieved to not see another map 5 after yesterday.
Yeah, especially now we're 3-0 for record 2. That was fun. Like playing those guys.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit actually before we jumped back on live that, you know, this is a team that you guys had a lot of respect going into this match 4, and you expect that they should be a pretty solid team. What kind of went well for you today as opposed to maybe what the expectation was, even if there was? I mean, was there an expectation going in? Do you guys even know what was coming your way?
We had a good idea, but you never know with these guys. They all have fun with the game, and those players, they always innovate. You never know what they're going to come out with. But I think our team just was really disciplined. We didn't get greedy when we saw things we didn't recognize, and we just did our job. Played really well. I got carried by everyone. Neutral's insane.
I mean, you joke, but that was one of the things that I mentioned earlier on, was like even going into the Reaper Torb, right? The immediate reaction by Infected. I don't think we saw Infected get pushed back by all that brute force damage even once. So, I mean, you can see very clearly what you guys are talking about, like respecting them, playing into the compositions with a little bit of caution. But I want to know a little bit more about what you guys were prepping coming into this match, not just for Worldwide, but what it's been for you guys as a team. Obviously bringing on a few new players to O3 Splash, you being one of them. But they had a successful season last season, right? 3rd place was huge for O3 Splash. Was there any attitude of, okay, we just want to improve on this, or was there a lot of changes that felt like they needed to be made with the recent additions?
I think our roster, the reason why I'm really excited to play with them is everyone like wears their heart on their sleeves. Like, they're all emotional players. They tell me exactly what's on their mind. It's an issue. We get on it fast. So it was like easy to join the team, but the first couple scrims we had, I had like no sleep. I told my team this. I think they thought I was kidding. I'm so excited to play with these guys. I couldn't sleep the night before. I'm not even kidding. I love Overwatch. I love playing the game, so playing the good crew is really fun. And I played terrible in scrims. They were not happy. They were so nervous, but I finally brought it back. No, I finally brought it back. We've been doing really well. Neutral and I are like think the same way, so that's really nice. They're all awesome.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of Neutral, I mean, something that we saw in this game was Lukewarm and Neutral receiving very little amounts of pressure. I mean, damage taken numbers were some of the lowest that we've seen. How much of that was just obviously because of Worldwide and their strategy, and how much of that was just going into it knowing how to play into some of these compositions and getting Lukewarm and Neutral into positions where, first of all, they're, you know, very insulated, or second, they're very hard to get to?
So I think it's a lot of their comp they're playing. Like, it's really hard to get on their Ana, especially. But both Neutral and Lukewarm, like Neutral is like a Zen player at heart, and he takes no heals. Like, he plays so he can take 0 resources. And I call Lukewarm like, he takes no resources ever. He's this, like, low resource player. I love being able to pocket boat and infected, and they just do all the rest of the work. So I think they're just like, they got it down to a science. They're both grinders. They know how to like play their own game, so I don't have to sit on them and take care of them.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have added a lot of lethality to this roster. Last season was very much about like, okay, how are we going to play around Lukewarm, and the whole strategy kind of revolved around that specific playstyle. But it seems like you guys are throwing punches from everywhere. You're a real scary team to go up against. We'll let you go here, but appreciate you popping in for the interview.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Hope you guys enjoy the match.
Yeah, thank you very much. All right, here. So, as a treat, because we finished that one in what seems like record time, we get another match, don't we?
Yeah, going to be diving into a map 5. I think this is going to be Dragon Dance versus Strix. Right now, it's in map 4. We're going to go to a quick break. Hopefully, we can catch it real quick without having too much time spent in that break before we dive into map number 5 of that series. That means 3 today. Definitely a big treat. We'll see you on the other side of this.
Oh, hello! Fancy meeting you here. It's so nice to see ya. Are you ready to survive the wastelands? Then you'll need to bring your shotgun, your axe, and of course, your knife for your sharp wit, if you get my drift. Hey, whoa, whoa, whoa. Hold on there. Don't forget to pick up your Overwatch Contenders Junker Queen skin. Yeah, gearing up is as easy as connecting your Battle.net account to Twitch. And after that, watching the Overwatch Contenders Summer Series will contribute to your drop progression, letting you claim your own wasteland-ready Overwatch Contenders Junker Queen skin. Oh, that's right. It's time to rampage. Now, get out there and slay with the Overwatch Contenders Junker Queen skin. Okay, take care now. See you in chat.
You like solving problems. Problems like how to stop that tracer from deleting your backline. I know just what you're thinking. Go bring a turret. But y'all can't solve all your problems by simply bringing an extra friend to the battlefield. For that, you need the Contender's Torbjorn skin. Solve your problems by connecting your Battle.net account to Twitch. After that, watching Overwatch Contenders Summer Series will contribute to your drops progress, letting you claim your Overwatch Contenders Torbjorn skin. Even your turret gets an upgrade. Warning, the Overwatch Contenders Torbjorn skin does not come with extra or upgraded turrets. Build instructions will not be provided. By picking Torbjorn, you waive a claim towards any destroyed turrets. No refunds, no exchanges, and no take-backsies.
Welcome back, everybody. I know we promised you a second match, but Misty said no. So it's the third match that we're going to instead. It's the one that we had on schedule the whole time. It's like nothing's even changed. Of course, we've got Dragon Dance up against Wisp, neither of which managed to take their previous series to a map 5. It would love nothing more than to bounce back with this one.
Yeah, obviously, Dragon Dance, Wisp, those are the two teams we were looking forward to maybe seeing if we could go into, some sort of second series, make it 3 for the whole day. But yeah, they just ended a little bit prematurely. We weren't able to dive in there. But let's take a quick look at these teams. And these are teams that I think, despite the name change on one of them, should look pretty familiar, at least in terms of name value for these ones. So Dragon Dance, the first team that I think a lot of people might be raising their eyebrow out in terms of who is this, who could this be? If you haven't seen them before, well, these are names you should certainly well know at this point. Obviously, a lot of names, hailing from ISU are going to be on this team. We've got Petal, Xcal, Moving Fish, Shaq, and Onda going to be laying into this one for the first rounds. We'll see if we see some, maybe some maneuvering in terms of who winds up playing. We have seen that in the past, but I'm excited about this one because obviously Petal making that big return. We'll have to see how well he does, but then of course the rest of this roster rounded out. Just a lot of high potential here.
Yeah, Petal, look, I'm most excited to see Petal back. The rest of the Redbirds roster that makes up this core, of course, they're on summer break. That's why you're seeing them kind of split up into a lot of different teams, so that's that whole reasoning. But this team is rounded out as well by a main support player who's on the way up, so to speak, right?
Okay.
That's the last one, I promise. Maybe not.
It's not.
Nevertheless.
Keep going. Yep.
Yeah. Up against them, though, we've got a Wisp roster that looks strong as ever. Yes, Dragon Dance have a lot of pedigree, but this team has, maybe not been together on their own for the longest time. But let's be real. I talked about it with you before broadcast. Wisp is not the 5 to 7 player roster that they offer up each season. Wisp is the 20, 30 players that have played before for Wisp, and whichever 7 they happen to want for that season. People just seem to be so happy to come back and play for this team. Chopper, Rocket, Icy, Squid, Magic, Mateballs the lineup for right now. Of course, that support lineup looks real good, backed up by the core that was kind of driving this roster before.
Yeah, I think Wisp is a team where, a lot of these players know each other despite not necessarily being on the exact same team throughout, their entire histories. But, obviously, Icy Squid have a history. Icy Magic Mateball, Friends Outside. Rocket Chopper. That is a storied history between that duo right there. So, obviously, yes, this is a little bit different than the Wisp we saw last tournament. It's a little bit different than the Wisp. It will certainly actually a lot more different than we've seen from Wisp in the past year. But nonetheless, this is still a team that should still have a pretty high amount of synergy in spite of all of that.
Yeah, as well, we should talk. Wisp's identity's probably changed a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Right? They lost Jay Karu and replaced them with another Jay player. Well, I guess not anymore. Jay Bubs, but now Riker. Name change. Get over it, this, that, and the other. And as well, have added one DPS to the roster that I'm excited. I think you should be excited for. Everyone should be. Songjun joins this team. What? How did they pull off that bit of MacGyvery?
Well, this is just the classic NA thing, right? You just shuffle so hard, sometimes you just wind up getting cards from a different deck on accident. Sometimes things fall on the floor, and when you pick it back up, it's just a little bit different than the way it was otherwise before you just drop everything. Now there's all of a sudden like 56 cards in the deck, and we see some of the other ones over on Strix. But nonetheless, this is what we got, and I'm excited to see what we see from these two teams. And of course, Sunjun will have to see a little bit later, as not in the mix this time around. But map number 1, it's in the mix, and it's going to be Lijiang Tower that we go to. Control map between these two teams. Obviously, would have been exciting to see the culmination of, an earlier series, but now we get to dive right into the action. Let's see these two teams really clash.
Yeah, Lijiang Tower should make for a good battleground for these two teams as well, right? We've got a team that's been very practiced for the Winston in a long time, looking for a new identity with Wisp, and I think this is a map that I think is going to give them the opportunity to show exactly what that is, right? The varied scenery and architecture of Lijiang Tower, at least one of those maps is going to be able to show us exactly what they really want to do, right? Because losing J-Karu, the whole team, the whole comp, the whole idea was centered around J-Karu and just having one of, if not the best Winston in North American contenders at the time. And now that's gone. So they've got to pick up a lot of pieces. And like you said, they've added a few along the way, but it's whether or not they can actually put the puzzle together. That's the big question right now.
And one of the things that I actually find really interesting about this is that based off of this Lijiang Tower poll, I mean, I would imagine that at some point we're going to be really leaning into the Winstons, right? But both of these teams opting for their tank player that isn't really predominantly the Winston player. Obviously, IC spent a long time over the past year and a half or so really trying to develop that Winston play, especially transitioning into that single tank role. But, you know, going from what was J-Karu to Icy, that's going to be a little bit of, I would say a little bit of a difference. Let's just be honest about it. But they still have, obviously, Riker there. And on the other side, Moving Fish going to be playing here for map number 1, whereas they still do have Sawdust on this team. So, I mean, this is an interesting approach, one that I think definitely tells a little bit of a story about what to expect, what to anticipate going into this one, which is perhaps a little bit less Winston than what we saw in our first series.
Well, I think it spells great stuff for Wisp in particular, right? Lijiang Tower is a map that's going to force you across compositions, and while there's a lot of Winston players, and they'll usually swap to their off tank to play the Ramatra, there's very few people who kind of have both in their toolkit. And yes, it may not be J-Karu's Winston,
right?
But Icy's been training up that Winston since Overwatch 2 came out. Icy was one of the people that really embraced being sure to have a wide hero pool. Yes, still specializing in certain heroes, but having that ability to swap mid-map across the traditional off-tank and main tank roles is huge. And in this particular meta, I think a particular asset on a map like Lijiang Tower for Icy.
You know, one of the funny things, too, when we look back, you know, back towards that era, that was really kind of also like the Circus era, too, if you remember. And a lot of those tanks that were really diving into that, Icy, Kuffa, Infected, Strider now a little bit more recently, all the different tanks that were really kind of trying to dive into the hero depth and really trying to get as much as they could out of their own skill set, going into a single tank role, all of them seem to be doing pretty well for themselves right now, right? I mean, even Dante, interestingly enough, who is now kind of back into the collegiate space, was another one of those tank players that was just like, you know what, I'm just going to try to learn everything because I might have to play everything at some point.
Yeah, and I think it's one thing to have one of those players be the soul tank for your roster. I think it's another to have a weapon like Icy backed up by another player to kind of relieve a little bit of that weight, to allow you the flexibility for maps in which you may want to run one or the other. This time, we start off on the Ramatra, mirrored on both ends, one with the Reaper, one with the Cassidy. The backlines look quite different as well. Squid locking in a Moira, a pick that's become more and more popular since Mid-Season Madness.
Yeah, you're seeing a little bit less Ana, so Moira becomes a little bit easier to play. Obviously, we saw a little bit of a struggle bus situation in our first series going against an Ana, but nonetheless, these should be no surprise in terms of the compositions for these two teams. We knew that going in. Of course, just the two tank picks spelled exactly what the expectation was, and now we're going to see them clash and already an early start here for Dragon Dance.
No. It's like Petal hasn't missed a season of Contenders at all.
He won a tournament, finally, so he's unlocked. It wasn't a Contenders tournament, but he did win a tournament.
It's a tournament, yeah, we'll take it. Community tournament otherwise. All right, stepping up, Petal, to take down Rocket. We're going to try and regroup here, but they have to give up the point and turn.
All off the back of that first pick. Cassidy, big difference maker. Obviously, Wisp really want to try to contain a lot of that pressure and just try to take it over time with that backline setup, but Petal just has that burst damage to take someone out of the picture very quickly.
Get another onto Xcal for Wisp to open things up, but Petal returns. Point now slowly being pushed by Wisp. That consistent damage from the Reaper means a slowly moving wall of shotgun spread towards Moving Fish, who's having a hard time reclaiming his space. Pops in Nemesis form and tries to get back into the mix, but without Shaq alive, it's going to be real difficult.
Yeah, Icy and the rest of this Wisp squad, they're going to be able to get the flip here. really, again, just because of the fact that they do have that ability to just out-sustain an enemy as long as Squid can stay alive. And this is a pick that Squid is very, very good at. Obviously came into this league pretty recently as something more of a Kiriko player, but obviously can play this as well.
Petal, ultimate Deadeye, mighty quick. It's just gain space against Wisp, force them back to the point. Amplification Matrix continues to press that advantage. Plenty of ultimates still up for either side, though. This fight is far from over. Scout, though, taking out Rocket before a Blizzard can be thrown out. Dragonets aren't done with this yet. They pop an Annihilation, matched by Wisp. The Coalescence, though, aids in their crusade forward. And with the back line down, Wisp are going to take this.
Another flip here for Wisp, but I think still good news for Dragon Dance. They got that much credit out of that fight. 52% generated there, and they're going to be coming into this next one with a little bit of a beat advantage in terms of that charge there. Magic 8 Ball going to be under some level of stress trying to see if they can match that in time. Otherwise, Dragon Dance is just going to send it at them. I would imagine Dragon Dance might actually think that Magic 8 Ball has it already.
Well, I think outside of that, they're worried about the Death Blossom as well, so they kind of have to approach with caution here. So regardless, it's going to be a little slow. Mateball has the time to get that sound barrier up, pops it immediately in response to the Blizzard. A couple of kills, though, do make things very awkward for a Dragon Dance that's already been locked into a corner. They've got no real room to work with. They're being fired on from all sides. Wisp completely overwhelmed the opposing squad.
Yeah, it's just so difficult. Once you get locked into that corner, Wisp just holds you in there. Squid very close to Coalescence here as well, and Wall. That should secure yet another kill. And look at this Wisp. This is what I was hoping to see a little bit from that first series. Remember, I talked about just trying to get a little bit more. That's what Wisp is doing here. And now they put themselves in a fantastic spot. 86% right now to their favor. Coalescence ready. Look, Dragon Dance has nothing ready for this one.
Holster's empty. Dusty, and doesn't look like it's going to be full anytime soon. Coalescence popped first by Wisp. Really their choice of ultimates to throw in. A Death Blossom assists in pressuring out the backline. Pulls out a critical Ice Block and Annihilation to finish things off. It was teed up by the fight prior by the macro play that they initiated in minutes ago at this point. But 100-52 is the scoreline for Wisp after their first map.
Yeah, great start for Wisp. I think also just obviously dominant in a lot of the fights. Certainly faltered a little bit in the initial neutral fight. Petal just sometimes does Petal things. That's just going to be, you know, a known quantity that at some point Petal is just going to take over. But Wisp turned it back around beautifully. Really controlled those fights well. Great timings as well towards the end, especially where we saw Dragon Dance just without options completely. Wisp set that up ahead of time to be able to get into that position. Now, though, we go into a second stage here. Wisp, once again, pulling out that exact same composition. Dragon Dance this time still going with pretty much the same. However, Petal this time is going to be on the Hanzo, so they're looking for picks here.
Petal is always strong with this pick. Has been for some time. Dangerous one for Wisp to play into. They want to defend this point, but they're already stuck outside of it. They look to close the gap, gain a lot of that space, and now they can start playing defense, which is where they've wanted to be for some time. Never-ending flurry of icicles. Bow and arrow shots. The Mantra abilities coming at them. So much to contend with. They strike back immediately, moving Fish down. The rest of the team to follow. A swift death for Dragon Dance.
So neutral fight, this time going to Wisp. I mean, this is the one thing that I think Dragon Dance had in their favor, is that in the neutral, they could just kind of play slow, look for those opening picks from Petal. Just could not find it. Now Wisp in a really commanding position, being able to hold out inside of the point, able to utilize some of this geometry in the map to just stay away from Petal, just to deny some of those angles. That would be the approach I would take here if I was Wisp.
So, you know what? That's not the approach I would take. Losing Rocket certainly spells bad news for them, though they still have a Coalescence to fight back. The quickly charging ultimate, the boon to their success. Stepping forward into an Annihilation that gets just enough done is Icy. Implication Matrix ultimately spells his death. Got a lot done before going down just in the moments, the split seconds that the Annihilation was up. It was enough to get Wisp through.
Starts to seem like a situation that Dragon Dance are I mean, to say struggle would be an understatement. Wisp just seems so refined with this Ramatra composition. I mean, obviously a lot of the pieces still sticking through with Spring Series, where this composition was the composition, but I mean, come on, Chopper has just been annihilating everything, it feels like, here.
Oh god damn, this Reaper has been absurd in terms of the pressure it's mounted onto Moving Fish. Dragon Dance still do have a lot of sustain in this fight, though. Annihilation still up, but not Petal. They're gonna lack the damage now to really take this one on. Do we see a commitment from Dragon Dance? We do. Throwing in the Annihilation, throwing in the Sound Barrier, slowly running out of the ladder, but the former still charges on, pressuring out Rockets. Icy dishing out as much as they can on point in the meantime, but it will be a first cap inevitably for Dragon Dance.
Yeah, Whisper gonna probably lose a couple of more bodies here. I would have to imagine Dragon Dance actually not extending forward to try to see if they can find those. Moving Fish still pretty low. They need to get their reset going. Moving Fish obviously still needs their health to go up to 100 before they can really start brawling again, especially as Wisp are going to come into this fight. Coalescence at the ready, being able to match 1-for-1 on that Blizzard as well. They're just sending it, and why not?
Blizzard out, sending it like you said. Very good opportunity for a Death Blossom here. Chopper's thinking about it, but the rest of the team seems to have the job covered. Clean stuff from Wisp. Feels like there's not much that can contest them right now. Dragon Dance, they're getting their fights here and there, but it's costing them the entire ult economy, and now we're in the same spot that we were in the last point. Hurix, final fight, and Whisper just way up.
Yeah, they are way, way up, and if Wisp can clear the board here, and it looks like they're going to send it super aggressively, and why not? Petal might be able to get a flip, but they're going to lose the fight and then come deal with Petal later.
Tank. Nothing to really group around. Moving Fish will come back on the Doomfist as the rest of the team cascades upon the point, but it's just not to be had. Whisper in charge of this game, and that is for certain Hurix.
Yeah, that's a tough one right there. I mean, very close to just having more deaths than total eliminations for Dragon Dance. Just not the strongest of starts for them. But here's what I will say about Dragon Dance, and this is actually something we talked about prior, is Dragon Dance has a lot of the core from ISU, and what is ISU known for? Losing map 1, turning the series back around. Unfortunately for Dragon Dance, it seems to have flipped, where we see them winning the first game and then losing the series. This time around, though, they're going to lose the first game. So maybe this bodes well for Dragon Dance. Who knows?
Maybe the curse just is attached to Gig. Whatever curse it is, I don't know. If they pull this one back, we can start talking about it. But I will say, Whisper looking absolutely incredible.
So are you now.
Minty.
I figured you've upgraded. You look much better now, I have to say.
Chat doesn't react to me nearly the same way they react to Minty, so I figured I'd just cut out the middleman, you know?
I respect it. Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way about you. I also feel the same way about myself. Why don't we just go ahead and zoom in on it? Why don't we get me out of the picture as well? Why not?
Now this is Contenders.
We've elevated the product now.
This is it. We color commentate Sleepy Minty for the rest of the night. Honestly, with the way Whisper making it look right now, might not be much left to do. They're making quick work of this one. Even when we're seeing the fight come back out from the opposing side, Dragon Dance have never been in control of a map.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Dragon Dance have certainly struggled really kind of getting their feet underneath them outside of that first really opening neutral fight where we saw Petal find that first pick. Then they were able to get control there, and we saw them vie for it a little bit, and I think their third fight on that first round as well. But outside of that, yeah, it's just been Wisp in full control, really dominant throughout, and that's not something I anticipated in this series. Obviously, Wisp comes into this being one of the stronger teams, but now we move into a map number 2 where, again, this is going to be Dragon Dance's pick, and we do go back to Icon.
Icon Walls for map number 2. I think both of these teams still are, you know, not the most optimistic about playing Winston. They want to play as wide of a hero pool as they can, given the rosters and the depth of hero pool that both of these teams bring to the table. But on top of that, I think it's important that we mention, you know, there's been a lot of changes to these two rosters in particular. Obviously, Dragon Dance, you know, being formed, obviously there's a core there. But there's a lot of still learning to be done. Even if the players know each other, getting into the groove, it's only the second day for both of these teams, and Whisper just starting to mesh, not to mention bringing in a player that you and I know are giddy to see. Sonjun is in here. You and I had the treat of covering this young lad over at when he's playing for Seoul, kind of filling the boots of Prophet in the interim. Did a phenomenal job. Played actually out of his mind, I think. And, you know, unfortunately, it was not a permanent position. I don't think it was really ever meant to be. But for Wisp, they're happy to hear that because they have picked him up after he has fallen down from the Seoul Dynasty. And this is going to be a boon to almost any team. This dude is ridiculous.
Yeah, I think, you know, I'm obviously hoping that at some point we get to talk to Wisp to figure out, okay, how did best friends,
What
Icy
happened?
and Magic 8-Ball, manage to find a way to get Sunjun onto the team? I mean, obviously the power of friendship between those two is strong enough that maybe they can find some
Magnetic.
kind of, yeah, there's like a
Across
magnetic
oceans.
gravitational pull, some sort of level of attraction there to be able to grab some high level talent like this. But this seems like a miracle every way you cut it, and which is crazy too, because when you're talking about Sunjun coming in, you're also talking about replacing one of the already stellar talents at the DPS position. So you've definitely got some first world problems if you're Wisp right now, trying to pick and choose who's going to be playing.
Well, you know, I have written down in my notes, actually, it says, who plays Tracer? Because the entire time we were watching Sonjun play for Seoul, it was mostly picking up Tracer and doing very well. And you've got Rocket, a phenomenal Tracer, one of the best in North American contenders. And now they're both playing on the same map. So you can do the math for me here, Yurks.
Yeah, I'm going to stay away from that math. That's good. That's I don't know how to do that. I think honestly though, the bigger picture here is how is Dragon Dance going to deal with this in this series, because we expect that this should be a boon for Wisp. That's the expectation. Who knows how it actually turns out, but Dragon Dance have to find a way to be able to turn this into something where they can actually capture a win in this series. We saw them, if I'm not mistaken, drop their last one earlier today, so they really want to pick that momentum back up and see if they can find their way back into higher up in the standings, because that's something that a lot of these players are used to. That's the position that they're used to being in, and unfortunately for them, that's not the position they're in today.
See how things shake down. I'm curious to get the compositions here. There is a chance for either of these teams to swap over to the Winston. The door, of course, still open on the whole Ramatra thing. I think, again, Icy is the player that you're looking at to do that, if anybody, in this lobby, has both of those under their wings. No changes on the opposing side should be noted. No one tell Good Boys about that. I think Good Boys are okay with good cats. Look, I think we're past the whole cats and dogs thing here. I think we've grown out of it. I think we can accept that they're all good. I know I have. I'm not a dog or a cat person. Cats are just a little easier for me right now. I love dogs though. Am I like reaching across the fence too much? Do I have to pick a side?
I don't know about that. I feel like you've definitely taken a side, as from what we've seen so far in this broadcast today, at least. You know what I mean? Like, I haven't seen anything from you personally, you know, and we know each other pretty well at this point. I haven't seen anything personally from you that would say...
I have barked on broadcast. Does that count?
Let's not relive that, actually. You know what? Let's just move on into the game. We're jumping into Icon here. And we've got those Winston compositions. So we've got Icy taking on Moving Fish. Winston v. Winston. We've got this set up. This time around, we've got Tracers on both sides. This is something I actually watched Dragon Dance play this yesterday off stream from Pebble's POV. And I'm curious to see if they play it similarly here.
With the Echo, something that we saw before, though it was pocketed by Mercy then. Now it's Briggs, still perfectly viable, keeping that Echo alive. Sonjun, our answer has been given to us, is here to play hit scan DPS. It is already performing. Excal down, traded for Mateball. Side lane position's been taken up by Wisp just along coast. They're trying to move forward slowly but surely. Capitalize on the position that Icy has garnered for themselves in this room. And they're doing so quite well. A tick and a half already given up. Looking for the next target. While Dragon Dance regroup, only to be picked off yet again by Sonjun.
This is just such a good start here for Wisp. I mean, just explosive right out of the gates. This is the tone that you want to set if you're a team like Wisp. You know, obviously, they didn't have necessarily the exact finish they were looking for last time around, but look, this time around, they're here to make a big statement, and they've got the roster to pull it off in a big way. I mean, interestingly enough, it's actually Rocket doing a lot of the work, getting a lot of the action, though.
I mean, I think realistically, it's not any one player. It's very positional play from Wisp, right? Icy taking space, holding it, waiting for the right moment to strike, then diving in with the dynamite with Rocket. Trying to dive it to the high ground. Not so successful. Shut down by a nice sleep from Shaq. Will not dissuade Dragon Dance from their perch quite yet. That might, though. Pulse Bomb onto Xcal makes things pretty dicey up top. If Wisp can take back the Winston, find any access back up there, they're going to be in a great spot. And already, you see the support line is moving on up towards that high ground to try and begin the next assault on that particular position. They're in position. Squid, though, pays the price. Petal dives in, punishes the early movement of Wisp.
On top, looking for control of that high ground. You can see Moving Fish actually pushing through. Icy going to be able to make sure to contest that. So far, a nothing burger, I think, for both teams. But Wisp, they're going to be able to just generate those. I mean, it really comes down to Squid here. The timing with Icy, it's really off of that timing, the communication that both of those two are going to have. And it looks like Dragon Dance actually going first.
If they can keep Sunjin alive here, maybe it's decent for Wisp. I think they were trying to go, you know, nano for nothing and then pull out of that fight, but unfortunately Sunjin just got chunked out early on.
Just under 4 minutes. Wisp, a little bit quieter in the last couple of minutes here for sure. Dragon Dance being set up on this high ground, but utilizing a lot of their resources in that last fight. This is a good opportunity here now for Wisp. There they go.
Dodged by Icy. They get away from all of the CC abilities, allowing them free access onto that backline. The second bonk comes through from Onda, though, and does manage to send the Winston, stopping them from getting a second pick, though there might still be more on the menu here for Icy. And a lot of work done. Brigitte dropped low. A Winston denied access back to his own spawn. And a Bob now to lock them in even further. And I'm going to be honest, this looks far better for Wisp as Bob completely shuts down any sort of re-engage. Dragon Dance's Bob was swiftly dealt with by the remaining players outside. But my god, what placement from Sunjin.
If you look at this too, from the perspective of the stats alone, I mean, Sunjin obviously popping off towards the back end, just a couple of headshots there, finding those. But, I mean, 1 death across the board for everybody on the team outside of Rocket, who has 0 deaths. Wisp are, I mean, they're stampeding through this matchup. Despite the fact that Dragon Dance have been able to get a couple of stops, it's just not really amounted to too much. And yeah, Sunjin is on 200 pings, so I mean, that's crazy.
This man's criminal. Oh my god, Rocket as well. This is an illegal DPS duo. This is not... We got it. I'm not sure this passes customs. We're gonna have to increase that ping to 300 to compensate. it's just not fair.
340 here, nearing the final, and Magic Maypole gets that kill on the pedal. This could be an opening.
Sunjun's got to kill like 4 here. Sunjun looked primed to kill 4. Wait a minute. It was a joke. It was a joke, guys. Oh my god. With the help of Rocket as well. I know we're very much singing the praises of the new player here for Wisp, but it honestly is starting to feel like an everyday thing for Rocket to tear through a backline all the same. Both of them putting in obscene amounts of work, and again, I don't think you can give enough credit to the positional play that Icy is putting up. Again, not traditionally a Winston player, somebody who's picked it up time and time again in Overwatch 2, has it continued to improve on it as time has gone on, and is really putting on a clinic.
Put on a clinic feels like an understatement. I mean, what, 16 final blows between Rocket and Sunjin right now? I mean, what do they have? 6 deaths total across the entire team? I mean, that already is an insane KDA, and that's just 2 of your players. This team is, I mean, they are the lawnmower, Dragon Dance is the grass. That's just the best way to put it at this point.
We'll see if they can put on any sort of an attack. This is what we wanted, man. Look, Icy on defense, swaps over to the Ramatra. This is the comfort that this roster brings to the table. It's be so powerful. Oh, Yurix. I think they're talking about my cat. I think Angie's talking about my cat.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. No, she sleeps like a rock, despite the fact that I'm screaming next to her for like hours at a time. No, she's the best cat. She actually just got somebody applied for adoption, so good for Minty.
5,
Yeah.
4, 3,
Find a nice home.
1.
Anything's better than where she's at right now. That's all I'm saying. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. For anyone concerned about anything, it's
I treat my
just a
foster
joke.
cats
It's
very
just
well,
a
thank
joke.
you very much. They're like royalty in this household. All right. Step up to the plate on defense, like we said, with that Ramacha composition. Flexibility of Icy. Coding so well for this team. Sonjun and Squid can just hole up back there with plenty of defense to help them out. Dragon Dance still bring this Echo to the field, though. Wisp, unlike the previous players to step foot on this map, though, they've got plenty of hit scan to deal with that flying pick, so I don't think Excal's going to be nearly the danger that the Echo was previously, and Sonjun proves exactly that.
Just once again, kind of walking right through Dragon Dance, but Dragon Dance, looks like they get out with a couple of lives that they otherwise would have lost. I mean, seemingly should have lost. Wisp now, you know that time bank is kind of looming over Dragon Dance's head. So things got to kick up pretty quickly here. Dragon Dance going to be playing to this dive. And Wisp, they just know full well that they have such a solid backline to kind of rely on for a lot of these dives. So much damage already coming out from Sonjun already on this defense.
No power down. Get in there.
Flying up, Excal's got a couple of shots to land on the backline. They cower into the mini rooms, try and find some sort of help. Sonjun, the next bit of prey for an indecisive Excal. Punished immediately by Rocket, sweeping in on the backline. 2:24 on the clock. Nearly cleft in twain. Only got half that time bank left.
Yeah, not a good position to be in here for Dragon Dance. They've got to build up some of these resources really quick. They got to pull resources out of Wisp as well. This just does not look good for them. They are diving into the blender, an absolute blender, every single time.
Early Bob, I don't think that's quite the most productive, not nearly as much as the last couple
good
Bobs
disengage
we've
from
seen
Dragon
Sonjun
Dance for sure.
run out. Yeah. They just pull away immediately off the back of it. Recognizing it's not too far in their back line. Looking for another opportunity. Excal working their way around the back line. Has to avoid getting gapped by Rocket. Easier said than done in most, if not every situation. Now again, just struggling to find a target. Excal in the previous couple fights, man, just looked kind of lost some of these engagements. There's communication, or Excal in particular, we can't really be sure. But Whisper happy to take the extra time and the lack of lethality coming out from the Echo.
Yeah, and now you look at that timer and you look at the ultimates on the board. I mean, this is basically forcing a neutral to a degree. I mean, Rocket's going to have a pulse bomb, so not necessarily, but something, I mean, very close to what is that, you know, what is a neutral fight. And Dragon Dance, I mean, may just have to rely on this nano. They may have to buy time for the nano to come online before they even take a fight. That would be my impression of this one with 50 seconds.
I'm telling you, Rocket hits these. I've seen this a million times.
Gonna get a two-piece?
That's a... Oh! Shouldn't have spoken.
And he's dead.
That's my bad, Rocket. Just DM me your PayPal, your Venmo, whatever afterwards. I'll make that good. For now, though, Dragon Dance doing pretty well for themselves after an initial pick. Petal makes good for 2 more following, and Dragon Dance will see the B portion of Eichenwald.
And all because you hyped up. Can't believe it. 250 here, though, for Dragon Dance. They get another shot, another life. But Wisp setting up on this high ground. This is, again, where a lot of teams can lose a significant portion of their time bank. Just trying to, you know, levy for control a little bit. Just kind of high ground, posturing, trying to gain space. They're losing bodies in transition, in rotation. It's so difficult, especially against a team like Wisp.
Oh, this is going well for them. They got Squid. If they can get Moving Fish out, which takes a bit of work, be in a great spot to find this re-engage. Moving Fish. Oh my goodness! That's a lot of headshot noises. Moving Fish does get re-upped by the Nano Boost, but a large portion of that Nano Boost was actually used just picking up the health bar of Moving Fish, who's kind of getting cyberbullied by the DPS duo of Wisp right now. Sonjun works around a back angle here. Really nice one for the Ashe at that. Rotation gets awkward, though, as Petal descends upon his prey. Smells them as well, going towards the Mega Pack, shuts down that rotation as well. Tracer's kind of been on the tear. Talk often about Rocket being one of, if not the best Tracer in North American contenders. Well, that was a lot of which, after Petal left, stepped in to fill the shoes nicely, but Petal has come back to try and reclaim that throne and is doing particularly well on this Eichenwald attack. Magic Mate Ball backing away now with Squid trying to just save that Ana, but it is not Long for life. This is a position where you're not really going to get much done as the Brig either, so the rest of the team will remain unassisted by that support.
I would say surprisingly low levels of lethality. I mean, the TTK on some of these fights is crazy high, right? I mean, you see some of these fights break out, and it just takes like 45 seconds before you start seeing those kills piling up and actually turning into something meaningful in terms of progression either way. And now Wisp coming into this, they'll have to be pretty quick on the uptake here if they want to be able to make this stop happen.
Moving Fish has a great first pick onto Seonjun, though. Re-engaged now, hampered massively as Icy backs away. A rally now has to touch the cart. Rocket gets in on the action, and they do get a touch, but the anti-nade, oh boy, the anti-nade completely closes this point for business. Dragon Dance should be able to follow up on that with absolutely no problems. Nicely done by Shaq.
Still more time off the clock, though. I think Wisp are pretty happy with the position that they're in here. They're still getting kills. They're still taking even more time off here, Dory. Yes, this is going to be Dragon Dance's cap, and there it is. But that's more time that's taken away, and that's certainly going to prove pretty solid here for Wisp. Dragon Dance now move into the final section of this map here. Metal with a pulse bomb coming online. Rocket very much similar position here. And you said before that Rocket hits these. Well, one of these two tracers, I mean, really needs to set the tone in this next fight. Land a pulse bomb, get some value out of this, and there you go. It's Petal, though.
Petal for one. Rocket still hasn't taken his turn quite yet with the controller. Actually waiting. A lot of time being bought by this Primal Rage. In fact, Seonjun picks one off in the meantime. This is a very cheap fight for Wisp. They pull a rally. If they get, I mean, you don't have to do anything. It's not a winning fight for Dragon Dance. They don't have that much lethality. I don't know how they're actually going to follow up on that rally. They've thrown in a Primal Rage as well. This is the all-in from Dragon Dance. They have spent every last doubloon they have on this fight and come up completely empty-handed, Urix.
And not only that, but Wisp held on to everything. So now you see Moving Fish diving in. He does find Seonjun, though.
That is a bit of a miracle. Looking for an honor to follow up as well. There's Rocket's pulse bomb.
Okay.
Anything Petal can do, he can at least respond in turn. 30 seconds later, better.
Redemption, I think, to a degree for you. Vindication, perhaps?
I trust Rocket. That's my dog. That's my child.
Dragon Dance all the way backed up here. They do need to find a way to get in, and now you don't have that nano boost to dive forward with. You don't have Moving Fish on the Winston, so they have to push their way in with Brute Force.
Brute Force is aplenty right now. Just don't have too many tools, but another Bob from Seonjun makes things really awkward. Separates away Moving Fish from the back line quite spectacularly at that. The Ramatra in a really dubious corner. Again, split away by that Bob. Into the end of the push for Wisp and the end of a second map as well. A 2-0 score line strongly held. Dragon Dance had some heroics there to capture the 2.5 points that they did, but at the end of the day, that's all it was. Wisp, we have to remind ourselves, still had a 3.5 minute time bank, should that even have reached the end line.
Yeah, I mean, that was not looking pretty solid there at all for Dragon Dance once you got about halfway through. That was a 3:21 time bank or something like that, capped out. That's just so difficult to beat. But you look at Eichenwald and you see, you know, Wisp playing into this Winston. I think this is a pretty decent situation for Wisp to play from, though, right? I mean, when you think about Wisp from Spring Series, certainly a Winston-based team, but it wasn't obviously with Icy. They had Jakaru. Now Icy comes in, and obviously a lot of the pieces still fit very well, despite more than just Icy being the difference. I think a lot of that really comes down to that backline just being so secure, Rocket doing so many good things on the Tracer, being a phenomenal player in that role, and then Seonjun coming in, I mean, putting up an absolute heater at 200 MS. That is insane.
Well, I think Seonjun actually fits the Icy playstyle quite well, right?
Yeah.
One of the big things you see the best Winstons really know what to do is, you know, when to play for the counter dive, when to play for the proper dive. We saw Moving Fish and Icy both play pretty passive, and you have to think that's just due to the fact that they want to play as safe as they can, right? They don't want to make those super aggressive plays, potentially make the wrong move in those situations. But one player who's very happy to bide time is Seonjun, who can just continually lay it down on the Ashe and will eventually create picks for you. So it leans into the playstyle quite well.
Yeah, obviously Dragon Dance have a lot that they have to figure out, but they're only going to have a couple minutes to figure all that stuff out themselves. We'll see you on the other side of this break for map number 3.
You like solving problems. Problems like how to stop that tracer from deleting your backline. I know just what you're thinking. Go bring a turret. But y'all can't solve all your problems by simply bringing an extra friend to the battlefield. For that, you need the Contenders Torbjorn skin. Solve your problems by connecting your Battle.net account to Twitch. After that, watching Overwatch Contenders Summer Series will contribute to your drops progress, letting you claim your Overwatch Contenders Torbjorn skin. Even your turret gets an upgrade. Warning, the Overwatch Contenders Torbjorn skin does not come with extra or upgraded turrets. Build instructions will not be provided. By picking Torbjorn, you waive a claim towards any destroyed turrets, no refunds, no exchanges, and no take-backsies.
And welcome back, everybody. Get your bring the cats back out now while you can. She's eating. She got treats for being such a good girl on broadcast, but unfortunately, you're stuck with me again. But you've been looking at Hurix this entire time, so I can't be that bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's still an upgrade if you still divert your attention towards that side of the screen. So it is what it is. I got to live with it. But nonetheless, Dragon Dance are going to have to live with the fact they're down 2 maps already in this series, and things are not looking good for them, especially when you consider their position in the standings right now. They do not want themselves, I mean, what is realistically a group of very talented players that have seen some very high highs now experiencing a pretty low low.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of talent on one roster. Whisper, just a lot of talent on another roster, and maybe a bit more right now. I mean, it's a team that we talked about, right? It's got an incredible core, but the way that they bolstered it, the way they pulled it together for this season is really impressive, and it's something they seem to do every season, but some seasons they just hit a little bit harder than others, and this seems like, at least off rip, they're doing really well for themselves. The counter pick, though, for map, they're going to try and beat them on will be Circuit Royale.
Yeah, I think to your point, I think the one thing that's probably going to start entering Wisp's mind at some point throughout this round robin stage is they don't want to go down the way that they did in Spring Series, which is, I think they were first out of round robin, if not second. I believe they were first, though, and then finished 5th, 6th. Obviously, a pretty tough transition going in to the double elimination and having that finish when you did so well in the round robin stage. But nonetheless, it is something that's probably going to be on their minds at some point, and they're looking for a much better conclusion to this tournament beyond the round robin, which is already starting off very well for them at the moment, alongside Saints, which was their, I would say, top competition in the round robin last time around. But we do see some adjustments being made here. It is going to be Neb coming in for Wisp. They are making a little bit. They are going to be making a little bit of adjustment here. Obviously, when we talk about going into Circuit Royale, I think there are going to be no surprises with what to expect here. It's going to be very much, long range, potentially hit scan options. Sunjun makes a lot of sense for that. You do have the ability to incorporate things like Zenyatta as well. Of course, we're destined to see things like Sigma into the mix here. So Wisp just making those slight alterations to compensate for that.
Yeah, Squid Neb gives you that double flex support backline that you're looking for a lot of the time. Be pretty powerful at long range. This is where I expect to see the tank play really step up, though. Honestly, strong performance from both Winstons. Hats off to Moving Fish, somebody who hasn't piloted the Winston really ever that I've seen, at the very least. Icy's kind of been doing it for a while. Moving Fish held their own for a while, but now we move to the comfort picks for either of these players. Icy and Moving Fish get to play Sigma. I think this is a dream come true, and they're hoping Dragon Dance they can find some sort of gap in that sort of change. But let's be real, gapping Icy on Sigma is a job not easily pulled off.
Yeah, it looks like we're actually seeing yet another change here too. Chopper actually coming in as opposed to Rocket. So yet another swap up for Wisp, 2 changes. And I imagine that at this stage, maybe they want to lean onto Sunjun actually to be able to play things like the Tracer, and maybe have Chopper instead play whatever long-range hit scan that they want to play here for. And maybe if they transition away from that setup, then they have the ability to really have a diverse pool to pick from with this lineup of Chopper and Sunjun.
Yeah, I mean, this is rightfully terrifying to walk into. I understand where Dragon Dance are coming from with this map pick, but maybe this is just how every map pick feels against Wisp. Like, what do you pick where this team doesn't look downright terrifying? Because Circuit Royale completely swaps the hero comp, and yet nothing seems to have changed in at least the future sight that I have thus far. Sunjun Chopper. I mean, what a disgusting duo to have to run into on Double Sniper.
I mean, what even do you want to play here? I mean, it seems like when you look at the escort pool, right? You've got here, you got Circuit Royale, you've got Gibraltar. I wouldn't say that would be a better pick. And then you've got Route 66 and Dorado. Are those really better than Circuit Royale? Where, I mean,
crazy theory, Whisper actually just a well-rounded team.
That's been the thing with them. They've historically been a sneaky, well-rounded team. I would say outside of maybe Spring Series, where they would mostly be considered a Winston team, but even still then.
Yeah, let's get some Jetpack Cat in the game. I need, for apparently since I have to balance it out, I need Jetpack Dog too, but make sure because it's just getting into my brain now. Nevertheless, compositions are somewhat what we'd expect them to be, at least from Dragon Dance. Wisp likely to change in the coming seconds. Match backlines. Chopper not likely to stay on the Genji, though we've seen a couple of teams play with the Genji on this map for one reason or another. I don't completely understand it, and it usually doesn't work, but
I've seen it work in some scrims. I mean, I will give it credit. So if there's like, maybe, okay, we can derive that if it works in scrims, why wouldn't it work in official? You know, they've seen success with it.
That's what everybody said about the Mei Sombra in Overwatch League, and I think I saw that win like one map.
Well, nonetheless, maybe Chopper is going to be able to silence you this time. And, well, Sunjun's able to silence Xcal, so Wisp certainly going to be able to buy first corner for free.
What is wrong with this guy? They said, okay, Sunjun, it's your first time on broadcast. Look good. He said, okay. Yes, boss.
Funny thing is, the first fight wasn't really a Sunjun fight. It was definitely a Rocket fight, it felt like. Nonetheless, ever
Sunjun
since
just hit
then,
the flashy shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, man. Oh, my goodness. Icy. I mean, there are a few ways to really get the better of another Sigma in situations like this. Moving Fish was already on the back foot, but that little rock play, the outplay on the shield, the extra damage that Wisp had going towards it, that feels real good as a tank player.
I was going to say, surely you don't find yet another pick off of a grapple.
Don't talk too soon.
100% grapple pick rate would be insane. I would just I've never seen it. I would love to. Not going to happen this time around, but we're still darn close right now.
Chopper remains on the Genji. So far, proving me to look quite stupid. Pick's working very well for Wisp. As they back around their corners, Squid, Sonjun, and Neb all throwing in damage in tow. Interestingly enough, we haven't really talked about Neb playing Ana as opposed to the Baptiste. This is a bit of a peculiarity, something I don't think really ever see. Nettle manages to find Sonjun through a credit card-sized gap in the rest of the team. That'll be just enough to get them over this finish line, at least for now.
I'll find a couple heads there, but I like this Sombra setup that Dragon Dance have actually opted for. I think the Sombra should definitely help apply some pressure to key targets within Wisp's composition, namely Sonjun. I mean, that's going to be one that really needs to have pressure applied to if Petal wants to be able to continuously and consistently win out some of those duels. Sonjun's constantly in fear of that Sombra. It definitely makes it a lot easier for Petal.
I mean, ironically, it plays very similarly to the Genji, right? Just pressuring out that backline, making sure they're not completely free to snipe. The EMP is a lot harder to hit for this composition, so you're not really playing as much for the ultimate. They do have it up, though. Pretty powerful, especially when paired with the Gravitic Flux. Only Sonjun, though, is targeted by the Sigma player. Nano boost to keep the Widowmaker alive, and they'll make the best use of it possible by SMGing the entire time. Good idea, Sonjun. And hit the shot as well. Immediately gets the beans from Shaq as he pops out of the Transcendence. Wisp still move forward, though. With Chopper hacked, they've got no real teeth to bear.
Yeah, I mean, Wisp has really kind of just run into a veritable brick wall at this stage. I think they really would like to have that Nano boost back to be able to put that onto Chopper. I mean, when you talk about fight-winning ultimates, that combination, the Nano Blade, is very difficult to contend with, especially when you do have, the Ana that they had. Obviously, not just for the Nano, but also to be able to counteract the Zenyatta ultimate, to be able to get around the Transcendence with the Biotic. Now you see that EMP at the ready. Oh, scouted somehow. How?
Oh, Hanzo. Sonjun.
I didn't hear it.
Actually, I didn't either. Sonjun comes along to collect another. Playing this Hanzo quite tactical. This is an EMP of all time, for sure. Really late in the fight. They think they can pull it back, but follow-up for it, already difficult to pull off with this composition, is even harder when you're already down a player or two.
That was such a slick move from
Nice
Chopper,
blade.
dodging that.
Yeah.
That was slick. Wisp finally get to move forward off the back of this blade. One that was, as we say, vanilla. A little ghost dash action in there just because why not? And then the dodge at the end on this rock. Really nice secure. Getting their wall reset as well. Clean play from Chopper, and they do secure point B. Now Wisp continues to move forward. I would say a little bit slower of a pace than they're used to, considering what we've seen from them in the past couple of maps, but slowly but surely their potential to win the race is definitely on the board, and it's a little bit more difficult now.
We'll trade a couple of sentences, but again, the beginning of this point is a bit of a formality, as is the beginning of many points, right? It's just about moving that card a few meters that you need to really get to that first fight point. Dragon Dance are intent on holding quite far forward, though. They want to make the most use of this choke as they can. 34 HP! Nope, 0 for Shaq as he descends from the heavens. Critic Flux somehow managed to be enough damage to take down Icy, though, in turn. Moving Fish can survive this pressure that Whisper looking to mount onto him. Maybe, just maybe, Dragon Dance can profit quite a bit from this position.
Just looking for those picks. Dragon Dance looking for the same here, as both teams have fallen into these same compositions over time. Really a lot of precedence on the DPS lines. Who can get that first opening pick? And it's going to be Wisp actually surging forward.
Yeah, better amplification matrix by Wisp by a long shot. The LOS onto the Sigma Shield was a lot better. Dragon Dance could shoot through it, but couldn't shoot the Sigma Shield. A lot less protection available on the defending side right now. Wisp looks to take this high ground away. Should be able to get Shaq eventually. Cal doesn't seem in question either. It's going to be a real bad stagger here for the Hanzo.
Yeah, the timing is not going to be good here. And on top of that, you see high ground control for Wisp, and this is actually going to matter a decent bit in this matchup where Petal can't get up there, so we're going to see an actual huge amount of press coming in from Wisp just to try to see if they can take some of that space, and they succeed in that department. This is great positioning from Icy from here.
What a disgusting place to be for the entire team of Wisp. They've got Dragon Dance surrounded. You can see for a second there, Dragon Dance were thinking about aggressing onto the high ground via the stairs, but instead they think better of it. A Gravitic Flux allows Icy the vertical movement to retake that high ground. That is psychopathic fight planning from Wisp, and it still might not be enough. A Doomfist comes back to try and stagger this one out for Dragon Dance, but Icy proves too strong on this point. Completely shuts it down. The Kiriko not quite there in time. Sonjun, the new player's gotta get something done though if they want to overcome this spawn advantage. A minute 10 on the clock. And Wisp, at least for a moment, call it quits. There's about 2-3 members that will have respawned by now, but all of Dragon Dance is coming back up.
Great positioning from Icy, just utilizing that bounce off the wall. They're gonna cap this out.
The spawn timers were just right enough here for Wisp. I was talking about buying time, but Icy knew that all of their players died in, but an instant, right? So when they came back, it was in a wave of 4 as opposed to Dragon Dance, who were sort of trickling in on the point. They got 5, but it wasn't particularly well organized. When Wisp came back, it was very much with a plan. Execute beautifully, and despite a bit of a rocky fight, one where they had the advantage from the high ground at the beginning, despite the fact that it was, fantastically retaken by Dragon Dance with that sick Gravitic Flux move, still wasn't enough to stop them.
And I'm going to pull your attention specifically, Dor. This is for no one else out there in the audience. I want to pull your attention to the stats right now. We're not going to say anything, but I just want you to be aware of it, that it's happening for a specific player on Wisp right now.
Duly noted, all right?
No one else is allowed to know. We don't want to...
This is just called... No, this is foreshadowing. We're building suspense like good commentators here. Either that or we're just trying to not curse anybody else. I already got Rocket early. I don't need that list extended.
Yeah, you're already owing some people at this point. But Wisp, they get the job done. Great performance at the end there, especially from Icy, and I think it was Neb at the end there as well, just kind of sticking it through, coming back in on the Lucio. You see Icy, of course, just that conclusion, just an insane play. And there, yeah, you saw Neb at the end making that swap over to the Lucio, coming in and providing that support at the very end. But yeah, Aiden, yeah, I have to imagine that that's
if Minty goes to the Overwatch League, can I be her agent? Will that count as me making it to the Overwatch League? Is that close enough?
I think that's fair.
I'll take anything.
Yeah. I think we could update the Liquipedia on that one for sure.
I'll shine Minty's shoes if it means I get to be on an L broadcast in some form. All right, let's see. Chopper on the Sombra again here. Actually, not again. It was Dragon Dance who was running the Sombra. Chopper not on the Genji, notably. The Sombra, a little bit easier to play along these longer sidelines, though, to get there into the back line.
Obviously, looking for that impact versus pedal, trying to put in that pressure just to make life a little bit easier for Wisp, not getting scoped out by an unpressured Widow. But Dragon Dance still, obviously, they have so much long-range pressure. I mean, all 5 members of Dragon Dance can deliver some heat from afar, and that's what they're hoping for, trying to find one of these openings.
They've got quite a bit of sustain to take this fight with, right? Chopper can continually push that backline back, kind of assist Icy in the amount of pressure that's being put forward. The thing we haven't talked about as well is the danger of that anti-nade from Neb, who's still on the Ana, despite them not having a Genji. Thought the nano boost for the blade was the reason they were running it, but so far it seems to just be really good sustain. Pocketing Icy so that they don't really go down to anything, and Ant Matrix looks to change that for now, but there's not really any damage coming through. It's calm disengage from Whisper coming up on every last ultimate.
Oh, big kill. Sunjun out of the picture. Icy looking to establish a way back in, and looks like he's done it.
I mean, the flux is massive, though. It's going to take Dragon Dance a moment to recover from that. They spent a lot of resources as well, trying to keep the team alive in the interim, but it's Icy who falls as Dragon Dance manages to stabilize and find their way through A.
Be capping. I think that early pick onto Sunjun is probably the thing that did it for him, but Squid actually going for a contest. Here's the EMP. Pedal finds his head.
Lobotomizes him in an instant. Sonjun returns the favor, though, shutting down the Widowmaker on the opposing side. Squid going down means there's no Transcendence to match Shaq. Buys them a recontest onto this payload. Dragon Dance want this A point, and they're willing to spend to get it. As a matter of fact, they don't have to spend that much, still holding on to 2 ultimates coming out of the fray.
Yeah, big ones, important ones at that too, right? I mean, Dragon Strike is pretty solid in this stage of the map, really helps control this upper area, can put your team in a better position. On top of that, you got Grab Flux, you can get picks off of that as well. A lot of opportunity here for Dragon Dance to continue this momentum and keep pushing this thing forward, and they need this now in this series. I mean, they're down 0-2. You got to get something heating up now.
Always danger on the other side, though. Petal deals with it. No overclock available this time. That was the real threat that Wisp had to Dragon Dance. This is a really aggressive Flux, though. I don't know how they're actually meant to follow up on this. A lot of damage coming out from the Sigma, but again, not too many players here from Dragon Dance are actually around the corner to lay on any more damage than Moving Fish is already dealing out, and thus, for it, Moving Fish really just overcooks it. Big time. Overheats, pushing into the Gridic Flux, tries to find some follow-up. It's just not there. Miscommunication, misplanning, but that Flux was definitely too far forward.
Squid falls here, Dragon Dance. Oh. Losing 2 members in the process as well. No DPS line. Pretty much all their damage is off the board now, so they're backed up completely as Wisp.
One more.
Slowly.
Oh, that's
this. I mean, this is fantastic
really
for Wisp. Even though they. Oh wait. This is no longer fantastic for Wisp. This is no longer.
this is getting dumb. One more. Chopper needs to click ahead right now, and then we're like peak funny. All right, XCal steps up to the plate, offers their head on the silver platter. Not gonna able to find anything. Does hear a bullet whiz by. Petal delivers another. Wisp now loaded with ultimates. Still wants to re-engage in this fight despite lacking that Widowmaker. Which should they use first? Overclock by Sonjun Pop. Icy lifts him in the air. They don't focus down the signal though. The Connect Grasp was available to keep them up. Now they just have to punish on the low health bars that they took from those 2 ultimates, but they can't. Dragon Dance is reset. Got the health bars completely picked up. They're now ready to re-engage, and they've got a chance to match one from Squid. Not soon enough to save Moving Fish, though.
Moving Fish dropping at that time right there. Just unfortunate Squid, though.
We got the picture-in-picture Petal there.
Yeah, let's make sure that we get sights on Petal at this point, because every time it feels like Dragon Dance, they're just resetting and nothing's really going to go on. Petal just somehow finds a way to get a double. So yeah, let's go ahead and scope in on this one, because I have a feeling here, Dor. Let's see if it...
I had a feeling about Rocket earlier, and I really screwed him over with that one, so... Maybe
what if he hit it, though? What if he hit it, though?
Alright, Wisp here. Defending the hill, Dragon Dance to storm up it, hoping for the best. Grapple shot from Petal. Nothing. The old goose egg as they battle down the stairs. A real game of footsies, but Dragon Dance can't afford to play such childish games. They've got time that is burning off the clock. A grapple up again by Petal. One of these has to connect. Chopper tries, pops the sights, Gravitic Flux as well, available for Moving Fish. Trance to follow up, they want to push big into this, but Squid, my god, Squid, what a good Trance. Counters out 2 ultimates and gets the better Trance. What more could you possibly ask for? Overclock from XCal spells the fight not being over yet, though. We're only halfway through. A small intermission is this Gravitic Flux. XCal finishes off that Overclock with a couple of really important kills, though, and most notably, Moving Fish is still up, but not long enough and not with enough resources to keep the rest of the team up right alongside him. Sonjun gets the last laugh.
Came alive in the second half here as well. 15 seconds on the clock. Not a lot of opportunity left for Dragon Dance. Desperately making some swaps. We see the Junker Queen coming out. Full change-up. I mean, to a completely different style, let alone picks. And we'll have to see if they can even make it to the point. They do.
I mean, they get there, but they've already spent Shout, Dash, Kiriko Teleport. The number of abilities they have is countable on one hand. Don't think it looks too good for him. Yeah, they're going to fall real quick. Wisp take control of the map at B, much the same way that Dragon Dance did earlier on. Take a 3-0 in the series. What a commanding first shot on broadcast, though. Wisp look phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, Wisp... It was kind of the Icy show on the attack. We were talking about the stats thing that we didn't want to talk about. It didn't come true. Icy had 17 final blows, was decimating, had 10k damage dealt off of that attack. I think the next closest was something around 6k. I mean, that is insane to do almost double the next damage, and then having 17 final blows was absolutely deadlifting by a wide margin at that time. But Wisp came together as a squad on their defense. Sonjun stepped up. Obviously, Squid really came through in a couple of big moments, helped shut down a couple of pushes from Dragon Dance, and despite Dragon Dance's best efforts, again, a really, really solid team, Wisp just turned it up.
Yeah, I think Wisp are going to continue to. We talk, about contenders being very close lately, and it looks like all the teams are stacked, but there are certainly a few that are looking to really cement themselves at the top right now, and Wisp is doing exactly that. What a roster, what coordination from them as well. Their macro play was phenomenal. It wasn't just individual play, despite literally every player and the subs that they pulled in having pop-off moments. They finished the series strong as well. You shouted out Squid. That Transcendence was, everything you could ask for and more. I would be terrified to go up against this team next.
Yeah, and think about the situation that we're in here as well. Even at this point in the round robin stage, where you look at like Spring Series, all the conversation was it could be anybody's tournament to take. I think we're starting to see a little bit of that same situation happening here. I think we did get a little bit of a note. I'm not 100% on this, but I believe Saints are down 0-2 right now in their series versus Timeless, if I'm not mistaken. So really excited to see an update on that one, to see how that one is going. But nonetheless, Saints 0-3 Splash, Timeless, obviously Wisp as well, all really in the running for top dog, the team to gun for in this tournament right now, this early into the round robin.
Yeah, it's going to be a close one, but I think we should go ahead and just talk to Icy about what their plans are for this season and what they want to do after just this break.
Oh, hello! Fancy meeting you here. It's so nice to see ya. Are you ready to survive the wastelands? Then you'll need to bring your shotgun, your axe, and of course, your knife for your sharp wit, if you get my drift. Hey, whoa. Hold on there. Don't forget to pick up your Overwatch Contenders Junker Queen skin. Yeah, gearing up is as easy as connecting your Battle.net account to Twitch. And after that, watching the Overwatch Contenders Summer Series will contribute to your drop progression, letting you claim your own wasteland-ready Overwatch Contenders Junker Queen skin. Oh, that's right. It's time to rampage. Now, get out there and slay with the Overwatch Contenders Junker Queen skin. Okay, take care now. See you in chat.
Welcome back, everybody. We promised you an interview, and of course, we always deliver. We got Icy in the booth. Icy, congratulations on a 3-0 win, and also congratulations on a hell of a last map. What a performance. Top fragging, top damage, top pretty much everything. Was it just relieving to go back to Sigma for a second after all the Winston you've been playing?
Yeah.
Were you just letting it out? Is that?
Yeah, they make me play Winston. I'm just playing Winston.
Right, a stellar Sigma performance. But I think we should address that your Winston. I mean, we interviewed you a while ago, I don't know if you remember, about your Winston after one of the games that you had played it in at the beginning of Overwatch 2, and you really started putting in the hours.
I remember the
it.
beginnings of the Winston.
Yeah,
IC,
exactly.
Circus IC.
Don't talk about the circus.
But it's clearly gotten a lot better, and today we saw some really good positional play out of you. Granted, you know, Moving Fish, obviously another off-tank player pushing onto the Winston. But how do you feel about your Winston play? Do you feel like it's progressing the same way we see it that way, or do you still feel like it's a bit of a weakness?
It's still like a learning curve. I wouldn't say it's a weakness anymore. I think I have it down, at least like fundamentally, pretty well, to where I could play the macro pretty nicely, but it's still definitely like a learning curve, and obviously there's still a massive difference between like me and the best monkey, just because they have that many hours, and once I put in the hours, I'll get up there.
So I'm going to address the elephant in the room here, because obviously we know you and Magic 8ball are best friends, and a lot of people are attracted to that level of camaraderie, right? How did you guys manage to get Sunjun? Like what?
Yeah,
what happened?
Explain. How'd you import? What'd you sneak across the border?
So Sunjun's like Chopper's son. Not like real son.
Is this like a Lep has son situation?
He's something like that. But
Okay.
Chopper's just really good friends with him, and then we were just talking to him, and apparently there's like a group of really good Korean players who really like Wisp, and they're just like fans of the team. And Sunjun's one of them, and I don't know what happened, but he somehow just like showed up, and he's just owning.
That's a really convenient person to be good friends with.
One day
It's
was
just
just
really convenient.
Yeah.
It's insane.
one day was just in scrims, and you don't really know how it happened, but then you got 30 minutes until roster lock. Everything's going crazy, and somehow you guys are locking in one of the best players probably available at all in any region.
Yeah, he's insane. He's actually like so good. I don't know. You only saw him on circuit today, right? Or did he play another map?
No,
I
Icon
saw
as well.
Ike. Yeah.
Icon as well. Yeah, if you wait for him to like play on Ilios or any of his tracer maps in Numbani, oh my, like it's like.
What is with the Tracer? Yeah, you have Rocket and Sunjun. Like that, I could never.
Double
It's like
Tracer
choosing
mode?
between your two children at that point. Yeah.
It's just superstar DPS line. I honestly don't even know how it works. Our coaches pick like who plays where, but I think it's honestly just like have fun. Like we'll have Sunjun own this map, Rocket owns the next map. We'll have Chopper Sunjun this map. Like it's just we're just having fun with it. I don't know if there's any theory behind it. There probably is.
How long Sunjun been scrimming with y'all? Has it been a short period? What's the adjustment been like?
I want to say like maybe a week or two, maybe 2 weeks. Wasn't much of an adjustment period. Obviously, he's still learning English. His English is actually better than you would assume. Like he actually speaks it decently well. But obviously there's just like a little bit of a language barrier, which is like the only hindrance. But other than that, he's just owning, and we just follow up with him.
Yeah, it makes it a little bit easier in that regard when the only thing that he really has to say is "I got one," and
Yeah.
then you can just go from there. It makes it a little bit easier.
Whenever he speaks, you just know that like he's onto something big. Like when he's calling, you feel like he's just about to get a 4K or something.
Hey, there was a couple of those moments, especially on circuit. But I hate to get a little negative, but I got to bring it up. Icy, you know this. Obviously, phenomenal performance for your team last spring series in the round robin. Then all of a sudden you get into double elimination, and then what, 5th, 6th finish? Obviously not the finish you were looking for. What feels different about things this time? Obviously you guys are doing very well already early on in the round robin. How are you going to transition that into the double elimination bracket if you get there?
That's a good question. We had a lot of issues brewing like near the end of double elimination, or at the end of round robin last time. And we like half addressed them, half didn't. And that kind of just like brewed into why we got 5th, 6th, because we were by far like we should have just like taken the whole thing. It shouldn't have even been close, but then we were just like struggling against some of the weaker teams. Right now everything is going well. I wouldn't say it's going as good as last season, because last season I think we were just so far ahead, but if we just keep going like steadily improving, we should be like very, very good by the time double elim happens. Hopefully like nothing big bad happens. Because if something big bad happens, obviously there's no
You sound so nervous about something happening. Yeah.
Come fifth, sixth last
We got some
season.
foreshadowing going on. I'm not sure where this is headed, but I'm worried.
This is knocking on wood or something. I don't know. We should be fine though.
As long as y'all can maintain course from tonight, I see some pretty good stuff in the future. You guys look fantastic. We appreciate you popping in for the interview, Icy, and best of luck in your upcoming games.
I appreciate it. Always fun talking to you guys.
Yep. Bye. All right, Yerks, that leaves just the two of us because Minty's gone as well.
That's
been
tough.
a fun day, though. I know. Sorry, guys. Has led us through two pretty fun 3-0s. And, like, I think, again, there were highlights for each of the respective teams that we went up against, right? Worldwide, I think, had not a bad showing. For the team that they were going up against, it was always going to be hard. There were definitely highlights in there. Same goes for Dragon Dance. But realistically, 0-3 Splash and Wisp put their names on the map today.
Oh yeah, big time. If it wasn't already there, it certainly is now. Obviously, 0-3 Splash, at the moment, they are without a loss. Have to see what those updates look like, but I believe they are still sitting at 3-0, still in their fourth match, which is their second match, obviously, of today. We can see the standings updated as things currently sit. Obviously, there are still some matches currently in play, so some teams will have 4 games played, some teams will have 3, but you can see Saints 0-3 Splash, they're right behind them. Wisp actually have projected themselves forward into third place. We'll have to see how that works out once Timeless, Pip, Strix, once those games actually come to a conclusion for their 4th series of the day. But overall, I still think there are some pretty big surprises here, right? I mean, you look at the bottom even, and there's some really solid talent that is sitting down there without a win at all. I mean, Worldwide is a good team that is 0-3.
I'll tell you, man, they've got some. I don't think they're going to be without that win for too long. It seems like another one of those seasons where there will not likely be a team that I think goes all the way without a win. I mean, it'll be tight, right, between the bottom teams to pick up those last couple, but it seems really competitive around the middle of the range. It's going to go a long way down, especially when we consider that all these teams, instead of having to prepare just for the top teams, are now kind of having to prepare for everybody, you know? Every match starts to become more important when the standings get this tight. There's a lot of pressure going on these teams into every week. Speaking of weeks, though, let's talk about what we're getting on the 17th. First matchup, Amplify versus Worldwide. I mean, that is already one of the most important matches for those two sitting down at the bottom. Currently scoreless, both of them. Would love to pick up that first win. And then Strix versus Saints. Strix, a team that has proven, I mean, they've got quite a bit of metal going up against Saints, who are, I think, all metal.
Yeah, interestingly, I mean, Strix had their first loss against Rift, who is pretty far down there at this current moment, but then ever since then we've seen Strix take that win yesterday versus Timeless, that incredible match, the finality of yesterday's broadcast. I mean, what a finish. And then they've taken that into today and they've gotten their win against Dragon Dance as well. So I'm curious to see now Strix if they can handle Saints, the team that seems to be the team to beat, but we'll have to see. Obviously, who knows at this stage. But of course, before we get to that, we have EMEA that happens before, and Europe definitely bringing the action so far. Ataraxia taking on Raspberry Racers. That's going to be the first one. And then Peps versus SR Peak Check. That was a fun one last season in Spring Series. Those two teams competing. Yeah. I'm curious to see how that's going to go second time around.
Yeah, similar though to NA, where NA is kind of going similarly to how it did last season. Well, so's you. Twisted Minds has lost one map. Has lost one map. Dear God, dude, this team shows no signs of stopping. I don't know who could actually get in their way. They've played like half of their hard opponents already in the 4 games that they've won. I don't know what it's going to take to put a stop to this team's momentum, but there are a lot of teams vying for that shot right now.
Yeah, EXO obviously right behind them as well. Team Peps right there. Oh, yeah, still holding on to the top 4.
But if you combine their map differentials, they still don't.
That is insane across those 4 games. Excited to see that develop. Of course, you're going to have to wait until next week for that action to start up. But, man, things are heating up pretty nicely so far in the Summer Series.
That they are. All the more reason to hit that subscribe button, hit the follow button, wherever you may be. Just make sure you're keeping up with all the channels. Until next week, though, catch you later.
Do you like solving problems? Problems like how to stop that tracer from deleting your backline? I know just what you're thinking. You'll bring a turret. But y'all can't solve all your problems by simply bringing an extra friend to the battlefield. For that, you need the Contenders Torbjorn skin. Solve your problems by connecting your Battle.net account to Twitch. After that, watching Overwatch Contenders Summer Series will contribute to your drops progress, letting you claim your Overwatch Contenders Torbjorn skin. Even your turret gets an upgrade. Warning, the Overwatch Contenders Torbjorn skin does not come with extra or upgraded turrets. Build instructions will not be provided. By picking Torbjorn, you waive a claim towards any destroyed turrets. No refunds, no exchanges, and no take-backsies.